The Steamship Authority is a proud partner in many Falmouth community events, including town meeting coverage, and for good reason. Not only do we have a terminal and offices here, about 1/3 of our employees call Falmouth their home. We always work hard to serve our neighbors, friends, and the traveling public. We recently put 7 new electric buses into service at our Falmouth parking lots. We're adding new vessels to our fleet, continuing work on our energy-efficient Woods Hole terminal buildings, and adding solar panels at our largest parking lot. At the Steamship Authority, we're serving the islands and you.
Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce.
The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
Hi, it's Brendan from Crane Appliance. Since 1983, our goal as a family-owned company has been simple: to give our neighbors on the Cape and Islands a great shopping experience. Rest easy knowing our professional team will listen to your needs and help you pick the perfect appliances for your home. At Crane Appliance, we know how difficult appliance shopping can be. Our team is here for you. Crane Appliance, we call the Cape and Islands home.
Carlson Printing, 508-548-7303. Our email address is carlsonprinting@gmail.com. Carlson Printing, for all your printing needs. John's Liquor Store, 729 Main Street, Falmouth, 508-548-2287.
That's great. Diana was a Roman equivalent, but I'm named after a Russian Orthodox saint, actually who was crucified because he hid children from being killed by Romans.
Good evening. I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Falmouth Select Board for Monday, August 31st, 2026. Please silence your cell phones, and if anyone is making a recording, please notify me. The placement and operation of the recording equipment should not interfere with the conduct of the meeting. Lin, thank you. Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We are going to start this evening with a proclamation, although I'm going to admit, let's see here. All right. Jump ball, who would like to read the proclamation this evening? I've already gotten to read one this evening, so.
Proclamation for Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Whereas September is recognized nationally as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and the Cape and Islands Suicide Prevention Coalition invites our communities, mental health advocates, prevention organizations, survivors, and allies to join together in destigmatizing mental health and taking proactive action towards suicide prevention. Our goal is to increase awareness of mental health and suicide prevention resources and strengthen connections to appropriate support services. And whereas, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 48,800 people died by suicide in the United States in 2024, with provisional data indicating a similar number in 2025. Suicide remains one of the leading causes of death nationwide, including among youth and young adults. And whereas nationally, the United States experiences an average of 133 suicide deaths per day, and each loss is estimated to directly affect more than 135 additional people, including family, friends, and service members, co-workers, and community members. And whereas in Massachusetts, the statewide suicide rate was 8.6 per 100,000 people in 2023, while Barnstable County's rate was 11.7 per 100,000, underscoring the urgent need for local action, prevention, and community engagement. And whereas the Cape and Islands Suicide Prevention Coalition works year-round to promote prevention, awareness, education, and action through community trainings, forums, regional events, helping residents recognize risk factors, strengthen protective factors, and build a network of support. And whereas the town of Falmouth, Massachusetts publicly affirms its full support for the Cape and Islands Suicide Prevention Coalition and for all who work in suicide prevention, mental health, education, public safety, and research. And whereas we encourage all residents to deepen their understanding of mental health, recognize the importance of caring for their own well-being, and support one another in fostering a community where hope, connection, and help are all accessible to all. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, Heather M. H. Goldstone, Colin W. Reed, Douglas C. Brown, Robert P. Muscali, and Elizabeth Klein, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2026 as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in the town of Falmouth. In witness thereof, we have hereunto set our hand and caused a great seal of the town of Falmouth to be affixed this 31st day of August 2026.
Thank you. Do we have anyone here to speak on and receive the proclamation? No. Okay. Great. Okay. Moving on to recognitions. There, Mr. Muscali.
Yeah, I just would like to recognize the Falmouth Police Department. They received first place in receiving the 2025 Community Policing Award, and I think it's something that this community should be very proud of, and I think the police department deserves a round of applause. So. And I know it's been said a couple of times before during recent meetings, but I also want to recognize the wonderful job that the beach staff did this past summer, the guards, the attendants, the clerks, under sometimes very difficult circumstances. So we certainly appreciate all that they did and look forward to another successful year next year. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Ms. Klein?
Just want to recognize all of the individuals who work for the Falmouth Public School System. Today was day one, and so it's going to be a great year, and there's so many people involved in helping support the young people in our community. It's not just those classroom teachers, but bus drivers, aides, health staff, office support staff, and really we're blessed to live in a community with so many adults who are willing to work with young people and help shape them.
And how about those T-Ticket Tigers community with that playground that was ready to go for today for the first day of school? What a volunteer effort that was. That's incredible.
Terrific. One last one, I'd like to recognize the Commission on Substance Use, which they put together a fabulous event that is still ongoing at the moment down on the green in recognition of International Overdose Awareness Day. It was, for the little bit of it that Ms. Klein and myself were able to be there for, it was a really wonderful event. So thank you. Thank you to them for organizing that.
You know, Madam Chair, there's one other thing I've been neglecting to mention for a few meetings now. Local resident pointed out to me that there's a plaque at the entrance to Goodwill Park that recognizes the Fay family for having donated that for all the people of Falmouth to enjoy. And it's a great gift. We've had a lot of benefactors in Falmouth, but that's a nice one to remember. We often don't see that plaque because nobody uses that entrance except for the occasional bike rider.
Maybe that's something we should think about moving to the primary entrance so it is seen. But.
Maybe.
Announcements.
As for many years in the past, the Falmouth Rotary Club will be holding their annual craft fair at the Marine Terminal Saturday and Sunday this coming week. So please get out there and support the local Falmouth Rotary Club. It does a lot of good things and supports a lot of local organizations. So appreciate your attendance.
Excellent. Yes.
I have two announcements. One is to announce an event being put together by the Commission on Substance Use, and that is an event on Monday, September 14th at 7 p.m., and it is about accessing harm reduction opportunities for opioid use disorder. It's a public forum. You can find out more information on the Commission's portion of the town website. And I also wanted to announce that the Cultural Council's grant cycle opens tomorrow. There's information on the Cultural Council's website, and that's an opportunity for some small grant funding for individuals in our community, and there will be an informational session on September 15th.
Excellent. Any other announcements? No. Okay.
Well, actually, I believe the Water Quality Management Committee will be hearing from the proponents of the urine diverting program at their Water Quality Management Committee meeting on Wednesday. I haven't seen the agenda yet, but I believe it's going to be on there.
Okay. Excellent. All right. I will hand it over to you, Mr. Renshaw, for the town manager's report.
Thank you, and good evening, Madam Chair, Select Board, and community members. Just a quick update on the Mass Trails grant. If you recall, about a month and a half ago, we received this grant for about $400,000. I want to thank Kathleen Jansen, the Bicycle and Ped Committee Chair, for her work on the grant application. The update is that we were just advised last week, Monday, the 24th, that we received our notice to proceed. That was actually dated August 12th, but it was slow in the mail, I suppose. So we're well underway identifying segments of the Shining Sea Bike Path. We're concentrating our efforts on the northern segments from Depot Ave up north in North Falmouth, the terminus in North Falmouth. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. Peter McConerty, our DPW director, and Jim McLaughlin, the town engineer, are the project managers. And they're going to be communicating with Mass Trail staff. We have to develop and discuss an archaeology plan. And then working with Mass Wildlife's Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program, have to consult with that group as well and identify a plan. But we're excited. We don't have a lot of time to turn this around. The grant funds have to be expended by June 30th of next year. And as you all know, the winter months are not conducive to a lot of asphalt paving, so we're going to have to get going on this quickly. But we're excited about the opportunity. I want to thank Mass Trails for the grant. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, another recognition, if you don't mind. Brian Stokes, who was the very able director of the Falmouth Library System, has, as of last Friday, left that post to take a position with the state. But Brian did a wonderful job as the director of the library, did a lot of new programs, and deserves our thanks and gratitude for the fine job that he did.
Excellent.
And Madam Chair, if I could add
Yep.
one more update that I forgot to mention. The town was recently notified, and the school committee, that we were accepted into the Massachusetts State Building Authority's feasibility study phase of the Lawrence School project. That's an exciting development. The advisory committee, the building committee, I should say, next meets on September 14th. And that's as you all know, that's the whole process. There's particular milestones and steps that must be followed in sequence and in order. So we'll make sure that we follow the directions that are given by the MSBA and talk that through on the 14th when the building committee next meets.
And then subsequent to that meeting, I believe we will have school committee and/or building committee representatives here at the select board to provide an update on that process. Just want to make sure everybody's in coordination as we move this large and important project forward. So, okay, public comment. Public comment may be made on routine matters not on the agenda this evening. Comments are limited to 2 minutes. Please introduce yourself, and since the matter has not been included on the agenda, the select board may not participate in discussion on the topic. Mr. Doobie.
I'm here tonight to ask the standing authority, whom I believe to be the town manager, to halt all further development and costs for the police building to be constructed at 100 Brick Hill Road. I'm asking this as the property is severely deed restricted in its original wording by Section 2, Chapter 293 of the Acts of 1998, which specify use of the land for open space, water resource protection, and/or public recreation. The deed clearly states in its restrictions that, quote, the above described land may be used only for the purposes in Section 2 of Chapter 293. And the deed also states it also requires qualifying land purchases through the land bank program to be protected by permanent restriction running with the land. You will also find in the packet the answer to the question, does the term municipal purposes negate 293 and Article 97? The term does not negate the restrictions. I provided you with copies of the deed and detailed explanations as to why construction of a building, any building, is in direct violation of the deed's restrictions. I've also provided you with case law supporting my opinion. We are incurring daily costs for a building that cannot be constructed on this property. In my opinion, there has been an egregious lack of oversight on this portion of the project. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else for public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Robin Rustad from West Falmouth. I am a group of concerned citizens that have been working on land preservation in Falmouth. We were concerned to hear that Laura Moynihan of the Housing Trust has sent a letter suggesting you should reopen the RFPs for developing Zero West Falmouth Highway. I believe that would be a mistake. Her letter was riddled with errors and misinterpretations. I do not think I think the town is opening themselves up to potential costs and litigation if they take what clearly at this point we've determined is Article 97 protected land and try and build on it. We really need to think about ways that we can provide affordable housing in Falmouth that does not involve eliminating our limited forested public spaces. And I do hope that the board and town administration does not decide to reopen this case. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that you support the warrant article that is being presented for this fall's meeting to place this in permanent conservation under the Conservation Commission, like the other land around Long Pond. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to also speak in support of Article 18, which...
I'm sorry, for the record, can you please introduce yourself?
I'm sorry. Is that better?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to speak
I'm sorry,
tonight.
just for the record, I need you to introduce yourself, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Susan Hughes, and I live at 35 West Bowerman's Lane. So my husband was Dr. Edward F.X. Hughes. His family has had a home in Silver Beach since the 50s. In 1970, my husband was interning in surgery at Columbia Presbyterian. I was a social worker at Baby's Hospital, and we had our first child, Ed, who's in the front row here. I'm going to get through this really quickly. Don't worry, it's under 2 minutes. We loved the Cape and could not imagine summers in New York City that did not include as much time as possible here. The Hughes clan was growing. Everybody was getting married and having children. We needed a house of our own and went looking for one in the winter of 1972. To our delight, Arnold Gifford, the owner of the Sackness Homestead and the last living descendant of that family, had listed his one-bedroom house abutting the homestead property. We were just thrilled because we had already toured the homestead the year before, and we knew how beautiful the farm was. My husband worked 3 jobs, and we had hamburger helper every night to come up with the money to buy the property. We had 2 more children and housed all 3 children and company for many years in that house until we went looking for a bigger house in 1993. By that time, we moved to Chicago, where Ed was a professor at the Kellogg School, and I was a pre-doctoral fellow at Northwestern. Arnold died in the mid-'80s. As next-door neighbors for 20 years, we remained friendly with his widow, Dorothea. Dorothea called us in 1993 to tell us that the homestead and the entire farm were up for sale, and were we interested in buying them? We said yes, and bought it at considerable sacrifice in 1994.
Ms. Hughes, I'm afraid you've used your 2 minutes.
I'm sorry?
You've used your 2 minutes. If you could please wrap up.
Okay, I will. Okay, so the property was covered in briars. We had to do a lot of emergency work to save the homestead and, to preserve it. The homestead is 40 acres. Half of it is upland. The other half is marsh, the great Sippowisset Marsh. My husband was a total conservationist. He welcomed scientists from the MBO to continue to study the great Sippowisset Marsh, gave the Audubon Society access to our beach, to erect fences to protect the piping plovers and the terns. He was a birder, a generous, loving man, lived and died for our family and historic property here. The staff who recommended that the town use our abutting 0 West Falmouth Highway property for affordable housing were quoted in the Enterprise as saying that there was nothing of any importance nearby. What a grievous oversight to my husband, our family, our neighbors. Please honor the legacy of my conservationist husband and support our petition to protect 0 West Falmouth Highway forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there others for public comment? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to our consent agenda. Thank you. Give me 1 second to get this pulled back up. Now it's not going to, there we go. Okay, consent agenda, licenses. Consider a vote to approve the application by Woods Hole Golf Club, Inc. at 130 Quissit Avenue for a change of manager to its all-alcoholic beverages club license. Number 2, consider a vote to approve the application by Seacoast Shores Association, Inc. at 7 Fairview Lane for a change of manager to its seasonal all-alcoholic beverages club license. Number 3, consider a vote to approve the application by Historic Highfield, Inc. for a special one-day wine and malt beverages license at 56 Highfield Drive for Nicholas Zaraitis Falmouth Jazz on September 2nd, 2026 from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Hold.
Number 4, consider a vote to approve the application by Historic Highfield, Inc. for a special one-day wine and malt beverages license at 56 Highfield Drive for We Are the Men, a Nation of Song on October 4th, 2026 from 4 to 6 p.m. Number 5, consider a vote to approve the application by Historic Highfield, Inc., 56 Highfield Drive, for a series of 5 special one-day wine and malt beverage licenses for Friday night events, Highfield Holidays Twilight Hours, on November 20th and 27th, December 4th, 11th, and 18th, 2026, from 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Administrative orders. Number 1, consider a vote to approve the petition of NSTAR Electric Company, DBA Eversource Energy, and Verizon New England for permission to install 7 new JO poles labeled 101/23-5, 24-5, 25-5, 26-5, 27-5, 28-5, and 29-5 in the right-of-way of Courier Road in Falmouth. These pole locations are necessary to provide system improvements and increased reliability to Courier Road in Falmouth. 2, consider a vote to approve the petition of NSTAR Electric Company, DBA Eversource Energy, for permission to install 1 handhole 358/H5 and approximately 42 feet of 1 to 3-inch conduit in the right-of-way of Amphibian Road. This work is necessary to provide new and improved service to 13 Amphibian Road in East Falmouth. 3, consider a vote to approve the petition of NSTAR Electric Company, DBA Eversource Energy, for permission to install approximately 40 feet of conduit by way of mole bore from pole 83/4 to customer-installed handhole in the right-of-way of Barneck Road. This work is necessary to provide improved service at 25 Barneck Road.
Hold.
4, consider a vote to approve the petition of NSTAR Electric Company, DBA Eversource Energy, and Verizon New England, Inc. for permission to install 1 new JO pole to be labeled 84/8-5, approximately 70 feet east of existing pole 84/8. This pole location is necessary to provide electric service to number 86 Water Street. 5, consider a vote to approve the petition of NSTAR Electric Company, DBA Eversource Energy, for permission to install 1 new FO pole labeled 218/19-5 in the right-of-way of Nathan Ellis Highway in Falmouth. This pole location is necessary to provide system improvements and increased reliability to Nathan Ellis Highway and Ashumet Road in Falmouth. Number 6, discuss and consider the request for approval for the Falmouth Police Department to accept a donation of canine equipment with a value of $3,500 from the Falmouth Police Foundation, a nonprofit organization to support the department's acquisition of a comfort dog and the current operational needs of the canine program.
Hold, please.
And number 7, consider a vote to accept a land donation from the Dimmick family. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exceptions of licenses number 3 and administrative orders number 3 and 6?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Ms. Klein, on the application by Historic Highfield.
It's very small. There's, in the description for us, there's several spots where the date is listed as September 2nd instead of September 20th. I just want to make sure that the motion we make is for September 20th. It's in the recommendation and item name with the wrong date. It is, I just wanted to make sure we were going to make the correct motion.
Okay, that's a good catch because it is in fact written as September 2nd, and that did seem a little soon.
That was what I thought.
Okay, so do you have a revised motion there?
Yeah, so motion to approve the application by Historic Highfield, Inc. for a special one-day wine and malt beverages license at 56 Highfield Drive for Nicole Zaraitis, Falmouth Jazz, on September 20th, 2026, from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and Ms. Klein, Administrative Order number 3.
Yeah, so when I was looking through this to check over the list of abutters who were notified, I was confused and could not sort out independently that on the request of certified abutters list, the location of subject property is given as 34 Albatross Street, but this work is being done on Bar Neck Road. And when I looked at the map, it seemed that there were potentially some abutters who were overlooked in that notification. And I just want to make sure that if individuals are going to be impacted, that they've been properly notified.
It's a corner lot.
Right, which is why I think, but when I looked through and tried to resolve the list of abutter addresses, I was unable to do so.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
We can certainly take a look at this. I'm looking at the abutters list now, and I don't think there's going to be a tremendous issue if we bring this back on the 14th once we're able to verify that everybody was contacted.
Okay. In that case, do we have a motion to table this until that has been?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and last but not least, Mr. Muscali on the grant for canine, comfort dog and canine.
Yeah, no, I was just hoping we could get a little bit of an update on the canine program and exactly what this matter, what we're talking about with respect to the $3,500, and just wanted a little bit of an update.
So, Madam Chair and Select Board Member Muscali, I was hoping Chief Laurie, he does plan to be here. As you all know, he was in the vigil on the green this evening, and then he's dealing with another matter, I'm told. So hopefully he does make the meeting for the later items. I can offer this with regards to the actual equipment that is the subject of the $3,500. As you all know, in the summer months, internal temperatures of vehicles get very hot. This is an alert system that automatically senses the temperature inside the vehicle and notifies the canine handler to release the dog, and I think it automatically opens and releases the dog if the canine handler within a certain number of minutes does not. I also told, I had a little bit of concern with this, but I'm told that this is the floppy-eared dog that loves everybody and not the tracking dog. That this feature would automatically release and allow the dog to escape the vehicle. But that's, in essence, that's what the item is all about.
So there's no acquisition of a new dog, which
No.
seems to be what the motion seemed to imply. To support the department's acquisition of a comfort dog and the current operational needs of the canine program. That was really what my question was, Mr. Renshaw.
Understood. And now that I look at the language, I think that's a misstatement. To my knowledge, they already have the comfort dog. I can verify that with Chief Laurie.
That's kind of what I thought.
I think the $3,500 when I read the supporting documentation was for the equipment, and that seemed to make sense to me. But I can verify. It's my understanding he already has the comfort dog acquired.
Okay. Well, I'll then redo the motion to approve the Falmouth Police Department to accept a donation of canine equipment with a value of $3,500 from the Falmouth Police Foundation, a nonprofit organization, to support the department's current operational needs of the canine program.
Okay.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to committee interviews, beginning with the Commission on Disabilities. Mr. Renshaw, over to you.
This is exciting. As you all know, the Commissions on Disabilities for several months has been challenged with new members. I want to thank the chair, Kathleen Haynes, and others, I'm sure, that were involved in soliciting applications. We have tonight 3 candidates for your consideration. As indicated in the packet, we have 6 vacancies on a 9-member Commissions on Disability. One of the 6 vacancies has a term ending June 30th of 2029, 2 vacancies with terms ending June 30th of 28, and 3 vacancies with terms ending June 30th of 27. And I believe, is it Joan Treistman is first up on the list. And Madam Chair and Select Board members, you have everyone's resumes and supporting documentation in your packets.
If you would like to come up to the podium up here, please.
Joanne Treisman.
Good evening.
Is that what you were looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
We all have your application. Is there anything else you'd like to add to your application that you would like the board to know?
So I am pleased that the enterprise did such a wonderful job of clarifying the need for more members to this committee so that they can have a quorum. 10 years ago, I joined the Affirmative Action Committee under the same circumstances. So I understand what is required. My mother was in a wheelchair for 13 years with an amputation. I know what it's like to get around when it's hard. So I don't have much more to say other than I'd be pleased to work with Kathleen. She has really been doing some wonderful work, and I hope that you will approve my application.
Okay. Are there questions or comments from the board?
Just which term would you prefer? I think there are a couple of different options, and we always like to afford someone the option.
So when you're over 80, do you take the 3-year or do you go with the 2?
And no green bananas, right?
Just hand me something and I'll be there.
Excellent.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, happy to have you participating. Thank you.
Just want to say thank you for putting an application in. It's very much appreciated.
Yes. Very, very impressive and well-suited, I would say, resume for this role. So if we have a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Joanne Treisman to the Commission on Disabilities for a term ending
June 30?
June 30, 2029.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Second.
Vote.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so
Thank
much. Okay. And next up, we have Mr. Treisman, and there we go. So. Same to you, sir. Obviously, we have your application. Another impressive and well-suited resume. If there's anything you'd like to add to your application.
Well, my wife is a hard act to follow, but I'm very interested in mental health and addiction. Most of my career was spent as the director of the Neuropsychiatric Research Institute at University of Massachusetts Medical School, and we've dealt a lot with mental illness and addiction, as you might expect, and I would like to do what I can in this community. I'm also very taken with the physical disability challenges in the community and would like to help with that. Currently, I'm mentoring a young man who's 14 years old who is on the spectrum and has had incredible difficulties in Falmouth. And I asked him if I were to join the commission, what would he like to see? And his major focus was to battle bullying. He said bullying is rampant, he faces it all the time, and that it's poorly understood. So I think one of the things we need is a greater education program regarding bullying. And what he described was that somebody would be bullying him, he would finally break and respond, and then whoever was in authority would look at him and blame him for the event. And that really shouldn't happen. So that's my story.
That's a good answer.
Sounds like a lot of room also for collaboration with our schools, with the Commission on Substance Use.
Yes.
And would certainly encourage those conversations and those collaborations. Yeah.
For quite a long time, it seemed like we were getting ahead of that, but now bullying seems to be making a resurgence. I need to get on that again.
So,
I guess,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I'll make a motion to appoint Stephen Treisman to the Commission on Disabilities for the vacancy with a term ending June 30th, 2028.
Excellent.
Second.
Okay. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. And our final applicant is Artemis Jukowski. And would you like us to bring you a microphone? We've got this one.
I can go wherever.
Or if we can just tip that one
I'm good.
down for you.
Yep, thank you.
There we go. Okay. Perfect.
So, I have a neurological disease.
I don't think your microphone is actually on. Sorry about that. And we want to make sure that TV and YouTube viewers can hear you as well.
I have a neurological disease called spinal muscular atrophy. Most people die of this disease before they're 2 years old. So I'm very lucky to have a mild form. All my life, I have advocated that all of us are differently abled. I don't like the term disability. It's it's a definition that's needed, but it doesn't reflect that all of us at different stages of our lives have different abilities. So I want to focus on the positive of what each of us can contribute, not the negative of what's missing. And I think it's a community effort, whether it's curb cuts that allow people to get through town, or whether it's beach mats that allow people to swim. I am an advocate. And by the way, this writer right here is wonderful. Interviewed a bunch of us around the stories. And one story you don't know about probably is that Diane Treisman went to the MBL beach and realized that there was a big rock in the middle of the beach. She called the beach committee and said, please move this rock. I had been advocating for 2 years to move that beach because I couldn't get to the beach in my wheelchair. With one phone call, they moved the rock. Now we can get to the beach. So that's what we're talking about, is not spending lots of money always, but to really be smart about how to include everybody. So that's my story.
Excellent. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Are there questions or comments?
I think that was a great explanation for motivation to be on this committee.
Yep.
Madam Chair, I will move that Artemis Jukowski be appointed to the Commission on Disabilities for a term ending June 30th, 2028.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Is there one for 28?
Yeah,
There were
two
two
vacancies.
Was there two?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
I will-
But before we move on, if you may, I just, when I came to Falmouth back in 2011, the first volunteer organization I joined was the Commission on Disabilities, and I was there with Kathleen Haynes. Kathleen has been there since at least 2012, thereabouts. Oftentimes the lone member of the Commission on Disabilities, and I think tonight is a testament to her diligence, her advocacy, her passion for people with disabilities, and I think everyone in the room owes Kathleen a round of applause for all she has done.
I would also just add, Mr. Jukowski, what you were speaking about in terms of what everyone can bring to the table and what we can all celebrate together. I think there's also overlap there with the work that the DEIB committee is doing. And so again, encourage conversation and collaboration amongst our different volunteer committees. And thank you to all of you. It's wonderful to see this committee getting back into action. So thank you all. Okay, we will move on to Cultural Council.
Madam Chair, the Select Board has one candidate to interview this evening, Ms. Eileen Preston. The Cultural Council currently has 4 vacancies. Included in your packet are the terms to choose from. There's 1 vacancy each with terms ending June 30th, 2029 and 2028. 1 vacancy with an unexpired term ending June 30th of 28, and an additional vacancy with, again, an unexpired term ending in June 30th, 2027.
Okay, excellent.
Good afternoon, Board. Eileen Preston, East Falmouth. And good evening, I should say, and good evening to the town administrators and the audience here and at home. I'm a candidate for the Falmouth Cultural Council. I have through my life, been fascinated with the arts. I did that through my education and also volunteer acting in some capacities around the town. I would love to be a member of this. I have been to 3 meetings so far, which Ms. Klein was actually at one of them, and I'm sure she can attest it is brilliantly run, and they run an awful lot of different organizations. They help so many people, and you just made an announcement about suicide prevention, and somebody spoke about bullying and the arts. I'm learning that the Massachusetts Cultural Council has started a program where healthcare providers can give a prescription for the arts. So if they see a candidate who maybe a patient who is maybe isolated or maybe feeling bullied, they can give them tickets to a symphony or pottery classes so that people don't feel so isolated. And the Falmouth Cultural Council has decided to take that on as well. And that's just one of the many things that is really, really inspiring. So I hope to be able to put my shoulder to the wheel for it.
Excellent. Are there questions or comments from the board?
I would just comment as having worked with Eileen at FCTV on a couple occasions, I've just always been impressed with her skills and abilities, so I'm sure she'll be a great addition.
Yep.
Agreed.
Fabulous to see you showing up in the community in a new way, a different way, and I didn't mean to leave the Cultural Council out of the list of committees for collaborations. I love that arts for health and inclusion. It's fabulous.
Great idea.
I would ask, which vacancy would you like? 2029?
Yes.
I think that's...
That'd be grand. I'd love that.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd be honored.
Then I'd like to make a motion to appoint Eileen Preston to the Cultural Council to fill a vacancy with a term ending June 30th, 2029.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Eileen.
Thank you.
All right, and on to the Recreation Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Recreation Committee currently has 1 vacancy with a term ending June 30th of 2029. As you know, the Rec Committee consists of 7 members with 3-year terms, and Mr. David Watson is here tonight to be interviewed by the Select Board.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is David Watson, resident of Falmouth. I'm a teacher at the East Falmouth Elementary School as a phys ed teacher. I've been there, this is my 20th year. I was on the rec committee for 5 years. Probably about 10 years ago I left. I have 2 kids. When I got too busy with my family, it became too much of a commitment, so I stepped away from it. But I found out there was a new opening, and I thought I'd go back to it. Earlier on in my career, when I moved back to Falmouth, I actually worked for the rec department for 3 years. So it's something I've had interest in, something I'm passionate about. I do like, when I was on the committee for 5 years, I really liked the fact that I could find out what my kids at school needed, communicate with the rec department. It made a real simple back and forth. When the rec department was opening up new programs, I could find kids that were interested in it, make those connections. So that's kind of why I'm interested in rejoining the committee.
Fabulous. How was the first day of school?
Great. First day is always a lot of fun.
Are there any questions?
No questions. I've seen Mr. Watson in action as a coach. Are you still coaching the kids basketball?
I haven't been the last couple of years because my son went through and I wanted to give him his space.
Smart.
But I'm going to probably try to get my toes back in the water a little bit.
Thanks for doing that too.
Well, as someone who has had 3 kids who've gone through your phys ed class and used your choice of pants or shorts as their gauge for what they were allowed to wear to school for years, I would be, that's a thing in East Falmouth. If Mr. Watson is still wearing shorts, the kids get to still wear shorts. I would be honored to appoint David Watson to the Recreation Committee with a term ending June 30th, 2029.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming back.
All right, and last but not least, Historical Commission.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Historical Commission currently has 2 vacancies, 1 full member vacancy with an unexpired term ending June 30th of 28, and 1 alternate member vacancy with an unexpired term ending June 30th, 2027. Commission is a regulatory board, as you all know, and consists of 7 members. 5 voting members, and 2 alternates with 3-year terms. And tonight we have Mr. Jeremy Krause here to be interviewed by the board.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Krause. I'm an architect in this town for the past 20 years. I've sat on the board for 5 or 6 months, and I'd like to move to an appointed seat.
Okay, excellent. Are there questions?
So you've been sitting in on the meetings already?
I think he's an alternate member, right? Are you?
I'm an alternate member now.
Thank you.
Already.
Yes.
For about
Great.
5 or 6 months.
Thanks for being willing to continue. It's great.
Yeah.
Has there been any moments in the past, in your time as an alternate, where you felt that your work as an architect presented a conflict for you?
Not yet.
If it were, how would you imagine navigating something like that?
I would probably recuse myself, and if I had to leave the room, I would leave the room.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm curious, especially as an architect, how you think about balancing historical aesthetics and historical value with innovation in materials and changes in design aesthetics.
I mean, we have a pretty clear scope of what we allow and don't allow, so as long as things are sort of in the spirit of this town, they usually get through.
Would you consider yourself more of a traditionalist with regard to historical architecture, or are you more of an innovator? Do you have a position?
I like traditional contemporary Cape Cod architecture.
Good, thank you.
That's a little bit of everything, isn't it?
That's a tongue.
Sure you don't want to be a politician?
He's working on it.
Are there any votes, as you've been in the alternate position, that you felt if you were on the board, you would have perhaps gone in a different direction or tried to sway the board in a different direction?
No, so far I've voted on everything, and it's felt like a appointed seat, so I haven't really noticed a difference.
Okay, great. All right.
Great. Ready to go for 2 years?
Sure.
I would make a motion to appoint Jeremy Krause to a position on the Historical Commission for an unexpired term ending 6/30/28.
Second.
June 30th, yeah.
So we have a motion and a second.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
And I will, before we move on, simply note that we had in our packet a list of town committee vacancies. Thank you to everyone who tonight was appointed and has stepped up to volunteer. We still have easily 24 or so vacancies across our various town committees. So please, not just those of you here in the room, those of you viewing this, and please talk to those who you know. We always need volunteers. We are blessed with an incredible spirit of volunteerism here in Falmouth, but we do still have vacancies and needs to fill. So, all right, we will move on to public hearings. Discuss and consider a vote to approve a request from Carrie and Jason Bourne for a variance to the flow-neutral bylaw for a proposed project to convert the existing commercial use to a private residential property with 5 bedrooms at 6 Falmouth Heights Road, parcel ID 39160201. Mr. Muscali, for the notice, please.
Thank you. Notice is hereby given that the Select Board of the Town of Falmouth will hold a public hearing on Monday, August 31st, 2026 at 6:45 p.m. in the Old Silver Surf Drive Program Room, Senior Center, 780 Main Street, Falmouth, Mass., on the application of Catalyst Architecture Interiors, Inc., on behalf of property owners Carrie and Jason Bourne, for a wastewater flow variance under Chapter 180, Section 56 of the Code of Falmouth, the so-called flow-neutral bylaw, for a proposed renovation to convert the existing commercial use to a private residential property with 5 bedrooms at 6 Falmouth Heights Road, in said Falmouth, parcel 3916002001, per order of the Select Board. Publication date Friday, August 21st, 2026, Falmouth Enterprise.
Okay. please introduce yourself, and you're here representing the applicant.
My name is Kurt Raber. I'm a principal architect at Catalyst Architecture Interiors, and my clients, the Bournes, Jason and Carrie, are in the back. Carrie wanted to say a few comments to you, but before that, I'll just make a small introduction about the project. My clients acquired the former location of the insurance office right next to the Friendlies. So this is the first house in the residential district that abuts the commercial zone. It's also across the street from the commercial zone. But it did have a special permit for its commercial use on a residential lot. They've acquired it after looking at many options of the best and highest use for the property. They decided that they do need and very much want a second home in Falmouth, and they want to repurpose that structure and then alter it with this addition, significant improvements to the site, which includes taking out that circular driveway, which kind of intersects comes out right into the intersection of Alma Road. We did come up with a 5-bedroom plan. We applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals. They decided that they could not vote on our project before we came before the Select Board for the flow neutral bylaw hearing. They advised us, perhaps incorrectly, but they told us that we need to come for the 5-bedroom approval or the 4-bedroom approval, as both are an increase above the 172.5 gallon flow that comes from a simple office building. So we're here today to ask for the 5-bedroom plan and approval tonight on the 5. And if the board were not inclined to approve 5, we understand that a 4-bedroom home is allowable by right. However, as I mentioned before, ZBA did tell us that they wanted us to come here and be heard and approved for either the 5 or the 4 before they would take up a vote on the modification of the special permit on the property. So this is sort of the first hurdle before we go back to them in a couple of weeks. With that, if I could introduce Carrie, she can join me or use the other microphone.
Hi, how are you? Carrie Bourne. I just wanted to speak because of our other meetings. We've been in front of the planning board twice already, and they had multiple questions, so I just figured it might be better if you heard it from me. The only reason why I wanted 5 bedrooms, because we have 4 children, adult children now. They come down every weekend. They love Falmouth. We all love Falmouth. This will be a summer home. It will not be lived in year-round. And we do not plan on renting it, and we do not plan on flipping it, because I think that was the concern of the planning board, was that it was going to turn into this crazy rental house, and that's not the purpose at all. It is for us to use ourselves. My father has a house down the street. We love being there, but the family's just gotten too big, so we just said, you know what, we need another place of our own. For everyone to have their own bedrooms would be wonderful. So that's why we're asking for this. So thank you.
So again, we're seeking approval to go from the minor flow that comes from an office building of 172.5 gallons up to the 550 gallons. I would note that this was last used as a commercial space. We did look at other options for the property, including townhomes or something that might have added up to as many as 6 bedrooms, but we decided that what they really needed and wanted was not an investment property, but a Falmouth home. So with that, I'll take your questions.
Okay, excellent. Other questions from the board?
I'm just curious, what's the status of the application before the zoning board? For 5 bedrooms, for 4 bedrooms? I'm just a little confused.
They are, I think they're on the tip of the surfboard to vote positively for the modification of our permit. However, they did not want to vote on an application that may not be allowable through the flow neutral bylaw. So they wanted us to come here first. Our current application before that board is a 5-bedroom home. if we were to be approved for 5, we wouldn't have to modify our drawings in the next 2 weeks. If we were approved for only 4 bedrooms here tonight, we would have to make a modification and file those with the board by next Thursday afternoon for the subsequent hearing the next week. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it did, thank you. And the planning board, what's the status there?
Okay, I think I said zoning, Carrie said planning, but we are in front of the zoning board because it's a modification of a pre-existing special permit through that.
So there's no planning board
We haven't
action.
been to the planning. I think Carrie misspoke.
Okay,
but
thank you very much for clearing that up.
Other questions
I
from
don't
the
really have any questions. It's very complete plans. I think it's a reasonable request.
Madam Chair, if I could real quickly, I asked our wastewater superintendent, Amy
Yes.
Lowell, to be here to answer any technical questions with regards to the system. It is indicated in your packet, Amy does not support, and as the applicant's architect indicated, does not support the granting of variances for more than 4 bedrooms. Has some concern about capacity in the existing system. If you recall, it was July, I think, of last year. Amy issued a memo indicating the current capacity in the system. And since that time, there's been 2 or 3, I believe, flow neutral variances that were granted. So Amy does have concerns, and it's indicated in the packet. I don't know if you had any specific questions. If Amy, you wanted to ask, I just wanted to let you know that she was in the audience tonight.
Yes, I appreciate that, and would definitely like to hear from Ms. Lowell regarding her recommendation on this case.
Hi, Amy Lowell, wastewater superintendent. This isn't my favorite part of my job, but I did write a referral recommending against allowing 5 bedrooms on this parcel because there are 1,000 or more properties that in single-family residential areas in the existing sewer system, and there will be in the future, and the flow-neutral bylaw currently allows, it grandfathers properties with the number of bedrooms that they have currently, but in the case of expansion, it allows them by right to go to 4. The zoning board, I know, has seen a lot, and the zoning board and planning board have both seen a lot of applications for additional bedrooms, and including for ADUs. And when, for example, an ADU has been added, the requirement has been that they reduce the number of, if they want to add, if they have 3 bedrooms existing and they want to add a 2-bedroom ADU, they have to reduce the number of bedrooms in the existing home in order to stick with that 4-bedroom limit. So I don't like doing it, but I recommend against it because of the precedent and number of other properties that would be affected.
Excellent. Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I would be inclined, it's not a question, it's a statement,
Okay.
so I can hold off, but.
That's all right.
I would be inclined to go with the advice of the wastewater superintendent. I've been spending time watching a fair number of zoning and planning board meetings, which are nicely available in the modern day on YouTube after the fact. And there's a lot of stress and anxiety among residents in Falmouth, particularly with respect to nitrogen and wastewater. And so I think considering the sense of frustration that residents are experiencing, I think when there are moments where we have an opportunity to think long-term, right? This may seem like it's one approval, but I think that it's could be one of then the next one and the next one and the next one. And so I would be inclined to listen to the advice of the wastewater superintendent. I recognize the desire for the Borns to be able to have a 5-bedroom home here in Falmouth. But I'm hearing from a lot of primary year-round residents who are very worried about this impact. And I think that those are the concerns that I'm really going to keep in my mind when I'm considering this item.
If I may ask, Amy, you were going up there
It looks
anyway,
like,
but
looks like you wanted to
wanna say
respond to
something?
that, and
I forgot to clarify. The property owners would, in my opinion, not require a, well, and actually, I had emailed this to town council ahead of time and asked. Town council agreed that a flow-neutral bylaw variance is not required for a 4-bedroom home on this property. I apologize that that was not clear before, when it was before the Zoning Board of Appeals. The flow-neutral bylaw variance is only required for a 5-bedroom home on this property.
Could you explain the practical difference in flow between a 4 and a 5-bedroom?
So we do it based on, or the bylaw says to do it based on Title V flow. Title V flow per bedroom is 110 gallons per day per bedroom. So again, it's not individually, it's not a lot of flow. It's just the number of properties to which this applies.
I will say, I've said it in a couple of different contexts, but the United States Supreme Court doesn't seem to care a lot about precedent, so I'm not necessarily concerned about the precedential value or the argument. I think we can deal with, an application not having to really worry about precedent per se. That's not my concern. But my concern is that the waste board or the superintendent is concerned about it, and that makes me concerned about it as well. But I guess I understand that the only application before us would be with respect to the 5-bedroom, and that we wouldn't
I
need...
believe it's either 4 or 5,
But
and the
we wouldn't
applicant
have
has
to do
expressed...
anything if it's 4.
Right.
Is that correct, Peter, right? I mean, we wouldn't...
I think
That is correct, and I think it would be helpful, Madam Chair, if I could, sorry to interrupt you, sir, if I could ask town council to kind of weigh in on this by rights question, because that is the advice that was given to the applicant in terms of coming to the board. If it's not 5, then it's 4. It's my understanding town council has spoken with Amy and more. I'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely, thank you. I agree with the wastewater superintendent, Ms. Lowell. The language of the bylaw is very clear. A 4-bedroom residential structure in this area, it does not require a variance. It's the 5th bedroom, which is why we're here having this hearing.
This is a public hearing, so I want to make sure we have an opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone here to comment on this application? No. Okay.
Could I add one more thing?
Yes, absolutely.
I just wanted to say that we understood that from the admin folks in the town manager's office, that we might not have to come tonight, but I pressed them to keep us on the agenda because of the comments that we heard at the ZBA where we needed an up and down on 4 or 5. So I guess if you all don't feel that you need to vote for a 4, we could take the meeting notes from today and go back to the ZBA and tell them as right, it's allowable. I would say that this is a unique property because it's been used as a commercial property for over 50 years. And it's in the shadow of whatever is coming on the Friendly's property. As an architect, I'm aware that there have been schemes to study redevelopment with great density right next door. Also right down the street in the residential district is a motel, which is going to be renovated someday into some sort of housing, perhaps denser than it is. And because it was effectively a commercial property, we think it's unique in that the 5th bedroom is not an excessive amount of flow over the allowable.
Thank you. I have a question for council, which, realizing belatedly, may have been a better question for special counsel for ZBA, but what we're looking at is essentially the termination of a special permit for commercial use in a residential district, correct? Not a new special permit for residential use of this property. Is that...
I'm not aware of the circumstances of the ZBA matter,
okay.
So I can't speak to that.
Okay. Are there further questions for the applicant? If not, we can close the hearing and discuss as a board.
No, I have no further questions.
Is there a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Well, Ms. Klein and Mr. Mascali, I think you've both expressed some of your opinion. I would say for myself in weighing this matter, Mr. Mascali, while I'm not overly concerned with precedent, I can't find any reason why this application would be any different than any home on a sewer asking to add a 5th bedroom. And while we do have significant capacity still remaining in our wastewater discharge, we would very quickly eat through that if we granted a 5th bedroom to every house in the sewer district. And so that, and also the fact that as we have weighed other flow neutral bylaw variance requests, one factor that we have taken into account is public good, community good, and economic development. And in this case, I would see the benefit as being entirely private. And so for those reasons, I lean toward the wastewater superintendent's recommendation as well.
I think the only difference, as the gentleman mentioned, is the fact that it is an existing commercial, and there won't be that many that would fit within that, that matter. But I agree. I'm more concerned with the wastewater superintendent's opinion. But I think the proper procedure would be to make a motion to allow the variance and then vote on that. I believe that
Simply
would
to
be,
have an up or down vote on the
on the
5-bedroom
five.
variance.
Would be the way I think we would need to do it. So I would make a motion to approve a 5-bedroom waiver to the flow neutral bylaw.
I guess I would second that for discussion.
Okay. Is there further discussion?
Yeah, I would say that even though it seems like a reasonable request, I think the wastewater superintendent makes a good point. If we grant this one, then a lot of folks are going to be encouraged to ask for it as well. And why wouldn't they? So I think I've changed my thoughts, even though I was kind of in favor of it before, but I think she makes a good point.
Okay. So all those in favor of granting a variance for 5 bedrooms? All opposed? So that's 4 opposed for the 5-bedroom variance. So then I guess the question is whether any action or statement from this board is needed with regard to the 4-bedroom application. And to your point, I guess that's reflected in the minutes that this board has been advised and feels that 4 bedrooms is a by right.
There's no action for the board to take. It's simply by right. So it's just the one motion, and the motion failed.
Okay.
Sorry, somebody's going to have to sleep on the couch.
Thank you for your consideration. I can get a copy of these minutes in a couple days, right? So that I could forward those on to the ZBA?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. On to some lighter business. Our first business item is the presentation of the employee of the quarter for the second quarter of 2026. Mr. Renshaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very excited about this. As you recall, 3 months ago, we introduced to the Select Board our first employee of the quarter. The program was created several months ago to recognize employees that go above and beyond. And on a day-to-day basis. We had, I think, 10 nominations for this second quarter. By unanimous vote of the review committee, Mr. Mike Sousa of the DPW was awarded the Employee of the Quarter for the second quarter. Unfortunately, Mike is not available to be with us, but I just want to state to the Select Board and the community how much, just in the 3 years that I've been here, I've seen Mike take on. He always does so with a professional demeanor, can-do team player consistently. Mike has stepped up in the absence of a road superintendent and taken on those roles as well, kind of as the acting interim road superintendent. So I want to congratulate Mike. He gets a $50 gift card of his choosing, and he is eligible for Employee of the Year, which we'll do towards the end of the calendar year, obviously. So please join me in congratulating Mike Susan. And Madam Chair, real quickly, if folks haven't noticed, again, a big part of this recognition is to make it visible in Town Hall. I want to thank Susan Lumping, our HR Director, who ordered and had installed a plaque right next to the Town Clerk's office, in between the Select Board office and Town Clerk. So Mike's name will go up as the second corner award winner, so thank you.
Well, and I just want to thank you and your staff for implementing this. I think it's a really wonderful way to celebrate our many hardworking employees. And I know it does take time and effort, but thanks to all of our staff who submit nominations and for actually taking the time to celebrate each other. It's really wonderful. Okay, our next two items are linked. One is to authorize the town manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement, and the other is to approve funding both for the Shared Regional Housing Services Program for fiscal year 2027. And our housing coordinator, Ms. Kim Fish, is here to speak to both of those.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Do you want to make mention to the police chief that we've already approved the K-9?
Oh, well, I believe he's also here for one of our later items.
okay.
But, so we will congratulate him and inform him of the vote on the
All right.
K-9s, which was a positive, and all of those things in a
Very
little
good,
while.
thank you.
But yes, thank you. All right, Ms. Fish, over to you.
Thank you. For the record, I'm Kim Fish, the housing coordinator, and I am here this evening to respectfully request $24,400 from the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund to continue receiving services from the Shared Regional Housing Services. Last year, the town entered into an intermunicipal agreement with Barnstable County to retain the services of the Shared Regional Housing Services. The Select Board, as trustees of the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund, voted to encumber $26,740. There is $2,339.87 left. We now are entering into the new fiscal year and a new contract, and we need to encumber more funds to pay for those services. And would you like to hear just briefly what that had covered last,
Yes.
what went
Yes,
on
please.
last year? Okay. So the services that were provided last year were monitoring services, and it's taking quite some time to get this up and running because it consisted of over 130 hours of research to create an extensive database with links to all the relevant documents like deed restrictions and comp permits. During that research, the Shared Regional Housing Services did a deep dive into how each of those affordable, the deed-restricted affordable units were created, because how it's created is how it's monitored. The old local initiative program units were required to be monitored by the town of Falmouth. So we were able to find out which ones we're responsible for and which ones we're not responsible for, which was extremely important because we really need to take care to make sure that all of the affordable housing that we have currently stays affordable, because it's, as we know, it's very difficult to create more affordable housing with all the current issues that are going on. Through Barrett Planning Group, they retained the services of Housing Assistance Corp. Of Cape Cod to mail out letters to all the deed-restricted units that are home ownership, advising them of the requirements of the annual monitoring, and requested that they provide the relevant documentation. And they also created a report of the responses, which I forwarded to HLC, which is a requirement of those deed restrictions. 76% of the town monitored houses homeowners responded, which is significant. Next, we'll begin the same process with the rental units. So that's what we're going to be doing entering into this new fiscal year. So the monitoring is not just a requirement, it also ensures compliances of existing affordable housing restrictions with the goal of preserving the affordable units, providing certification, and maintaining tenant protection. They also assisted with miscellaneous matters. They assisted with a foreclosure, with seasonal communities designation, with a deed restriction violation. And I also have access to numerous databases and forms that they have created. And we also have open office hours meeting every other week, which allows for the collaboration with other municipal housing cohorts through the Cape. And I find it an extremely valuable resource since we're all working on the same thing, but there's not a lot of resources for us. So I respectfully request funding from the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund in the amount of $24,400 to continue this valuable program. Thank you.
Thank you. There are questions from the board?
Certainly don't question the value of this service and the importance of the need for it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that they'll reach a point where we may need to do less each year once we get caught up and have a database?
I'm hoping so. Right now, that is the ultimate goal. I'm not sure if I would be able to do that myself. Maybe if I do eventually get that staff person, maybe. But right now, we don't have, the Hack of Cape Cod has created a way that the responses can be done electronically. We would then need to do that as well, which would take also IT capacity to do that. And then you'd...
I'm not trying to get you to do it. I'm just saying, do you think that the workload may decrease and we might need to pay for less services? I think that's a good model that you have.
Yes, I thought you meant to start to do it in-house and decrease it, because I would love to just do it in-house and not have it done at all there, but that, I don't know if that's gonna happen. But yes, definitely, because this first initial one is all the research, it took all the research, and then once they start establishing, a lot of these homeowners didn't know what they had to do. So they field phone calls and questions, and then once you start, they get used to doing this annually, that it'll just be a regular thing. And right now, the rentals, that is what's going to happen, the same thing. So hopefully it will just become a regular thing that people will do, and it's not going to be as cumbersome.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Ms.
And I
Klein.
apologize, I was misunderstanding.
That's okay. Ms. Klein?
Do you have a sense of the order of magnitude of about how many rental units do you think? Are we talking 50 rental units, 100 rental units, 200 rental units that you think are going to be caught or found, identified by you as needing monitoring by the town of Falmouth?
We have over 1,000 deed restricted units, and more than half of those are rental units. So we're talking about, it's pretty large. Some of those are already being done. They're developers, the owners of those, are automatically doing them, but unfortunately, the majority of them aren't. So,
and that clearly represents a workload that would not be possible for you.
Correct. Okay. Because it's not just sending out a letter, it's reviewing everything, and then if someone doesn't respond, then you have to follow up with it, and then creating the correspondence and the report so that it's in a readable form to go to the state.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had two questions. One, about the choice to use funds from the Affordable Housing Fund for this, as opposed to, I guess, general budgetary funds. And do you think that this could be covered by the funds that we just requested of the state through the seasonal communities designation for affordable housing?
I don't think it qualifies under
the
state qualifications for that particular grant.
Okay.
I can look into it further, but I don't think that would be a qualification.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion?
Nope.
Okay, so I think we need to take two separate votes, one to execute the agreement and one for funding. I don't know if the order of those particularly matters, because either is null without the other. So do we have a motion on the first for the execution of an intergovernmental authorization for the town manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement by and between the town of Falmouth and Barnstable County to receive services from the Shared Regional Housing Services Program for fiscal year 27?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Excellent, that passes unanimously. So second is to approve a request for funding for the Shared Regional Housing Services Program for fiscal year 2027.
So the board,
Second.
acting as trustees of the Falmouth Housing Affordable Housing Fund, will vote to approve a request for funding for the Shared Regional Housing Services Program as presented.
Thank you.
Second?
Excellent. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Also unanimous. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate everything that you do, and this is wonderful to actually start getting this monitoring in order. So, thank you. Okay, next is consider a vote authorizing the town manager to execute an agreement with the Woods Hole Group and Boston Harbor Now that will allow for the installation of an overland flood sensor at the Salt Pond Channel culvert. And Mr. Renshaw, do you want to start, or is it straight over to Mr. Wrigley?
I'm going to turn it straight over to Mr. Wrigley, our coastal resiliency specialist. He can speak much more articulately than I can to this. So, Josh?
Thank you very much. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Select Board, and Mr. Town Manager. For the record, my name is Josh Wrigley. I'm the Coastal Resilience Specialist for the Town of Falmouth. Your approval is needed tonight for the execution of a license agreement between the Town of Falmouth and Woods Hole Group and Boston Harbor Now. And this is for the installation of an overland flood sensor on the landward head wall of the Salt Pond Channel culvert. It's a new initiative that would contribute to 22 existing buoys and flood sensors that Stone Living Lab has already installed up and down the Massachusetts coast from Essex down to Fall River. And this would be contributing real-time data that's also accessible by the public through an online portal that could be linked to the town website as well. So in instances where there is overtopping on Surf Drive, the public would be able to view data, as that is happening, showing what those flood depths and conditions actually are on shore.
Excellent.
So they can jump in their cars and drive down there to see it.
Hopefully not. Not if they value their undercarriages.
How it actually works, Josh? I mean, it's mounted on a pole 8 to 10 feet above.
That's correct.
What's it doing that's going to be giving this data? That's all.
So it's a whole new flood sensor that, as you said, is mounted and projecting over dry land, over a hard surface. So when there is an occurrence of wave overtopping, then it would capture those flood effects there. And that's something that would be useful in that area because of Surf Drive's low-lying nature and its propensity for coastal flooding, especially during southeast-driven storms.
So in your opinion, it's the best place to put something like this in the town?
That's correct. And that was worked out through multiple conversations with Stone Living Lab staff and coastal scientists at the Woods Hole Group.
Well, I, for one, just want to say thank you for this ongoing collaboration with Stone Living Lab and Woods Hole Group. It's I think, really moving a lot of our coastal resilience efforts forward and bringing some of the most innovative thinkers in the state into our discussions and our challenges here in Falmouth. So it's terrific.
Thank you. Hopefully there will be more collaborations in the future as well.
Yeah. All right, Ms. Klein.
I just have a couple of questions. I'm very excited about this possibility. Just to clarify, when I read through the grant of license, I want to confirm that should the sensor be damaged in some way and require maintenance, that the town of Falmouth is not responsible for providing that maintenance or overseeing that maintenance. I'm not sure if that could be answered by maybe town management, or Mr. Wrigley might know the answer to that.
Well, I would just say in general that council has worked out the agreement, and which you have before you, but that maintenance on the flood sensor would be conducted by Woods Hole Group technicians.
Okay, great. I had two more questions, which are largely just logistical in nature. I'm really supportive of this type of data collection. So it says it's funded through June 2027. Is there a plan to be able to extend it beyond that, or we'll just have to reassess in a year from now?
I believe Stone Living Lab is looking for further funding to carry on. They had been given a discretionary award through EEA's Coastal Zone Management Office.
And my last question, based on the visuals that you provided, Mr. Wrigley, I couldn't tell, do they mount any kind of informational materials by, it would be, I think it's a really heavily trafficked area. There's a ton of people out on foot and on bikes, and people might be curious, and it could be a good opportunity for some proactive education, what it's measuring, why it's measuring that, and what we know about the future of vulnerable locations like Surf Drive.
Absolutely. I agree that it's a good opportunity for public outreach, especially as folks see a pole where there was no pole before. I would circle back with Stone Living Lab to discuss what some of those options might be. And then if there was an opportunity to provide something like that, I would reach out to council about amending the license perhaps and incorporating that.
Yeah, maybe they could just mount a little kiosk thing to the post and have a QR code on there.
That's what I was
I'd say,
thinking.
yeah.
Something like that could be very
And I would
effective.
encourage a QR code instead of a whole bunch of language there, just so that we don't have people congregating in that
Right.
one spot.
Right.
But agree that it's a fabulous educational opportunity as well. All right, is there any further discussion?
Should it be a conditional approval with the kiosk?
I would not want to make it a condition simply because it's a camera-based technology, is my understanding, and if I don't want to get in the way of that. If it's feasible to put signage on it, would be great, but I don't want to make it a condition that actually gets in the way of it working.
Okay.
If it's a hassle.
So, would you like me to make the motion? Or
Go
are you going
for
to do
it.
that, Mr.
Yes.
Muscali?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I make a motion to vote to authorize the town manager to execute an agreement with the Woods Hole Group that will allow for the installation of an overland flood sensor at the Salt Pond Channel culvert.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing that. If the board is agreeable, and I'm going to ask our water superintendent for just a little bit more patience. The last item on our agenda, I think, should be a quick one, and I was informed that we have an applicant from out of state with a long drive home. If we could give him 5 minutes of our time, move that up in the agenda, and get him back on the road to New Hampshire.
Sure.
So we will take the consideration of the application by Roadshow Concepts LLC, Heartland Roadshow, for a temporary secondhand dealer license. Mr. Renshaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the board may recall, Roadshow Concepts was awarded a similar license on July 27th for an event from August 4th to the 8th at the hotel. The application has been reviewed by the police and fire rescue departments. I found no objections or any concerns with granting approval of the application, and all of the application materials were submitted to the Select Board office on August 3rd. And Chris, if you want to step up to the podium and perhaps answer any questions, this is for a secondhand dealer license, temporary secondhand dealer's license.
Hi, my name is Chris Pimentel. I'm with the Roadshow, the Heartland Roadshow. I'm a buyer manager. I live in Westport, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
But I have to drive to a show tonight. That's why, I asked for the, to be moved up a little bit. But I'm here to answer any questions I can for you. A little bit about the Heartland Roadshow. We were here last time. We had a great time. I think it's a really, the way we conduct our shows, we do them at hotels. I think we're going to be at the Iris Hotel this time again. When customers come in, it's a very laid-back type of, very nice atmosphere. We buy gold, we buy silver, we buy costume jewelry, we even buy collectibles. So we kind of evaluate some of their things. We do it together, very transparently, and we have a lot of fun. The customers seem to enjoy it. Secondly, a little bit about Heartland Roadshow. We've been doing this for about 10 years. We do I'd say about 140 to 150 shows a day across the United States.
Okay.
And that's Heartland.
Okay. And you were here earlier this summer, and since you're back for another, I take it that it went well.
It did. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. And it was great people that came in. You know, it's almost, when they come in, they don't know what to expect sometimes, and so we come in and they'll have silverware and such, and they don't know what it's worth. So we go through it together with them, we evaluate with them, and we have a great time doing it, you know. So it's really fun. Our demographic is mainly older folks that come in with their, you know, jewelry, silver, things like that.
Makes sense. People want to downsize as they're getting up there and
Yeah,
get a
pretty
couple
much,
extra
you know,
bucks.
I mean, the silverware especially, I won't go on, but the silverware, like sterling silver sets, the kids don't want it, so they
Right.
come into our show and, like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, let's work it, let's see what we can do and come up, you know, we pay them right on the spot for it.
Right. Okay.
Any further questions?
Nope.
All right, do we have a motion?
The motion to approve the application by Roadshow Concepts LLC, DBA The Heartland Roadshow for a temporary secondhand dealer license to be executed at the Iris Cape Cod Hotel, Lighthouse Ballroom, 291 Jones Road, from September 15th to 19th, 2026, as presented.
And October 13th
Oh, shoot.
to 17th, 2026, and November 10th to 14th, 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Second.
Okay,
And
team effort.
did you second that?
I did.
Okay.
All right.
You presented it.
All those in
along
favor?
with Ms. Klein.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, safe driving.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, and now we will move on to a presentation from our water superintendent, Matt Lannon.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone in attendance, Select Board. Matthew Lannon, Falmouth Water Department Water Superintendent. Tonight, I just wanted to give you guys an overview of our existing conditions, of our future design demands, and our drought modifications in place right now. Some system design factors that we put into place as we designed our new state-of-the-art Long Pond Treatment Facility back in 2015 to 2017, before it came online. We have two very different seasonal populations. Our year-round population of about 33,000 customers versus our peak seasonal demand of 110,000. So we're designed to meet two very different demand needs for a community. As we can see, our consumption from October to about May is 3 million gallons per day. That equates to about 3 million gallons per day when we report. The average water consumption for the peak seasonal demand from June to September, however, on average is 8.5 million gallons a day, which equates to 8,500,000 gallons. The average consumption per person as of reporting year for 2025 was 66 gallons per person, times 365 days is about 24,000 gallons per person. The maximum daily finished water consumption in reporting year 2025 on 7/5/2025 was 9.617 million gallons a day, which equates to 9,617,000 gallons of water in one day. The total gallons of water pumped in 2025 was 1,394,920 gallons reported in million gallons per day. We currently have three sources. Long Pond, which equates for 60% of our total water to the system. 4 wells, which is 30%, and purchased water from Joint Base Cape Cod, which is about 10%. For storage and interconnections, we have 4 storage tanks, Hayway Road, Mares, Tech, and Thomas Landers, for a total storage of 8 million gallons. That's 8 times 1 million gallons equals 8 million gallons. Just to be clear, it's MG. That's how we report it. We also have three interconnections. One is active, now called Joint Base Cape Cod. 2 non-active, meaning they're not connected, but they are available for additional sources if we really needed them. So our existing source capacity, what we maximize and provide to the community, We have Long Pond at 8.4 million gallons a day, which equates to, in gallons, 8,400,000 gallons of water can be provided from Long Pond on one day. Versus our seasonal and wells are per gallons per minute, which there's 1,440 minutes, 1,440 minutes in 24 hours. So fresh seasonal, for instance, can do 500 gallons per minute times 1,440 minutes in a day, which comes to 720,000 gallons of water per day. Our existing condition summary is that our water system was designed to provide potable water and fire suppression to two very different seasonal demands. The existing peak demand volumes are nearing maximum permanent and registered volumes due to things like seasonal irrigation, significant increase in residential development, and continued drought conditions in the state. This is a drawing of our Long Pond water intake. Long Pond was not designed to be located at the lowest point of elevation for things like stratification, which is pond flip over. While Long Pond has the capacity to be significantly greater below this raw water intake, the elevation determines how much water we can currently supply to the community, which is 60% at the source. As you can see in this picture right here, the rack line from 2024 to April 2025 has dropped significantly due to our demand needs. This is a system drawing that, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but this is the standard elevation when we designed the intakes at Long Pond. This is the median at 7.12 feet. This is our historical low in August of 2002. Our current level is 3.85, which is from here to our intakes. That's how much water we have left to provide to the community in Long Pond right now. This is our 2020 to existing 2026 year-round elevation from our raw intakes to the surface of the water, taken daily and recorded for the yearly total. As you can see, for 2026, we started at just below 5 feet between our surface water to the intake through the season. If you notice from where we started in 2020, we were at about 8. So we've lost about just over 3 feet of the pond that has not returned to full capacity since that time. So 6 years. Things we have to consider right now are drought conditions. The Cape region remains in a level 2 drought. Under our Water Management Act permit, irrigation is prohibited and shouldn't be utilized by the potable water customers. The challenge that we face is having 17 staff members to monitor 22,000 plus homes and businesses that are irrigating between the hours of 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. This incurs a huge cost for overtime to try and deter people from irrigating their lawns. The drought conditions and subsequent restrictions change monthly, so it's challenging to tell customers 1 month that we're now in a level 1, they can water 1 day a week, and then the following month they're restricted to not do any irrigation whatsoever. I'm jumping over to residential development. The Mr. Cod properties for 1 acre at 22 homes at 2 bedrooms per home times 22 was 44 minimum additional potable water users annually, which equated to just over 1 million gallons per year per person, or per acre, I should say. This does not include irrigation uses and actual numbers of the people per home. Other things we need to consider are Joint Base Cape Cod's plan to potentially study the expansion of 7,000 acres of housing, which is just north of Long Pond. This may impact our future demands as the area is a large portion of the Upper Cape Water Supply Reserve. The Sagamore Lens, which is residential development. The communities in the Upper Cape, especially around here, are experiencing these same residential strains. The needs to provide potable water to continued residential development. And this also triggered staffing level shortages operational and capital increases, future water rate increases, and greater mitigation for irrigation. So moving forward into future source potential, the Ushumit that was taken offline in the 1980s, we're about to start with conceptual design to evaluate the existing capacities for drawdown and any parameters that we might need to put the source back online. We're going to explore the aquifer in the area to see if there's a better potential source at a different location as well. If the Ushumit well study is successful, the next steps would include drafting the Water Management Act permit registration, designing, then building new treatment facility, the new source approval, ultimately providing additional potable water for the community. But we're looking at 4 to 7 years before that all happens. Important note that the United States Air Force will encumber the majority of the costs associated with this project if we proceed and we do have a new source. So some recommendations. Consider implementing year-round restrictions on outdoor watering. The current drought model changes monthly and can be confusing to the customers. Consider appropriating money to start a water conservation program. This can include smart irrigation timers, rain barrels, staff dedicated to working water conservation incentives, water rebates on water sense fixtures and appliances. Continue collaboration with the Board of Health on making irrigation wells easier to obtain, especially in sewer service areas. And consider reorganization of fees for new customers and developers as access fees. Some final thoughts. Much of Cape Cod was initially designed to be a seasonal summer community. Providing potable water to our community is not the only issue as we expand our residential housing. Our roadways and traffic systems need improvements. Other utilities, gas, electric, fiber, and cellular infrastructure need improvements. The need for additional fire, police, and EMS will be required. Continued town-wide collaboration, identifying all aspects of our existing town designs so development can continue while maintaining our aquifer in primary source Long Pond is important. Thank you. Questions?
Well, and before we dive into questions, I just want to, Mr. Lannon, say thank you for raising a very important issue for the town of Falmouth to be considering on multiple fronts. I will say I could wish that it had come to this board through a slightly different path, and so would like to issue an invitation not only to you, but to all of our staff when we face something like a critical issue where we can't refill our water tanks at a period of peak demand, to please make sure that that information comes to town management and from town management to the select board, so that, first of all, we can simply be aware of how we're doing on providing services for our residents and visitors, and so that we can consider whether there are policy discussions that need to be had, which clearly in this case I think there are. So I am glad that we're having that conversation. I have a number of questions, but I will open it up to other board members first, and maybe we'll just start at the far end of the table and work our way along. So Ms. Klein, fire away.
All right, I'll get started. And so, Mr. Lannon, when I was thinking about this, do you have a way of quantifying? I would imagine that our system of pipes underground is not a perfect system, right? There's probably water loss between the Long Pond facility and, for example, my house, right?
We have unaccounted water for, yes, within the community from water service and water main breaks.
Is there any, right, I know water main break shows, it's clear for you to identify, but I'm thinking of smaller things that maybe are not showing up. Is there a way to, for example, reconcile the amount of water leaving Long Pond and the amount of water being used, right, from a resident's water bill? I mean, that's simply just like a mathematical question.
Yeah, so we have a master turbine meter at each facility that captures the water before it enters the distribution system. And then based off of that total volume from the entire year from pumped water, we take all of our revenued water, and the difference from that is our unaccounted water. Currently this year, I think we're just at about 3% of unaccounted because we tightened things up. We've been improving our infrastructure, but the the meter reading software we're using now is significantly more accurate. That's why we have about 800 total meters left in the system before we have more accurate meter reading program, so that we're capturing the actual values of the water that's coming through these meters. Some of the older meters, as they aged, they would not capture the same volumes, and you have inaccuracies. So they could be under-registering as they get older. These
Okay.
new ones are staying longer.
Okay, that's great information to have. I have another question. I just think about the remarks about the Schumett well and maybe make a recommendation to make irrigation wells easier to obtain. If we allow more wells to pull from our groundwater, am I correct in thinking that that will ultimately affect the amount of water recharging Long Pond? What I see is like we're taking from over here for now, right? And it would take maybe, I know from the wastewater treatment facility to flow out to West Falmouth Harbor, for example, is like a 10-year time span, right? So are we, by allowing more irrigation wells, we're letting people keep doing what they're doing, but we're just kicking the can of this problem farther down the line because the underwater ground system, like that groundwater system is connected.
Correct. However, the water is recharging in that location at, call it, 80%. But if we're providing potable water to the community, our number one priority for the water that we can create for the community should be going to drinking water purposes, not to irrigation purposes, which if we're going to expand our residential development, we need to make sure that we can at least provide those conditions to the community and then still allow people the options to have green lawns or, established landscape.
I'm going to jump in here for a moment because I think we've got, I don't know if it's a misunderstanding or crossed wires somewhere, but I'm going to quote from Board of Health well regulations. Compliance with water use restrictions. Private drinking water wells and irrigation wells shall be subject to water use restrictions to the same degree and extent that any such water use restrictions are placed upon the users of the town's public water supply by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. When I read that, that says that irrigation wells need to not be running now either. We're in level 2 drought. Nobody, unless they have an agricultural or commercial exemption, should be irrigating regardless of whether or not they've got a well.
So I didn't establish anything for private wells. That's not in my jurisdiction. So whether or not they want to enforce that would be on them. But to turn off someone's private well, you have to turn the power off of the home. So
I'm just saying, I think
there's
as a town, we need to all be on the same page. And if we've got that regulation, if there's a conflicting regulation somewhere else, then we should resolve that. And if there's not, we need to all be on the same page with what the rules are.
Madam Chair, I would agree. I'm sorry, Matt, real quickly. So Peter McConnell and I have had this discussion as well, and I think it is right for discussion so that we are on the same page. I was aware of the Board of Health's regulation, but I think this is the launch pad for future discussions, because right now what I sense is it's difficult for the DPW, for the Water Division of DPW to enforce that. And I think that's what Matt is indicating.
Fully understand there's an enforcement challenge
and we need
that
to have
we need to address.
We certainly do.
But in terms of just education and communication to the community as well, I think we need to be clear and all on the same page with that.
So not to blow this completely sideways, so we're talking about irrigation wells, but this is going to come out in the future. Wastewater departments is designing an outfall. All the clean water that we're using that goes out in the outfall is no longer going to be discharged into the ground. It's going to be discharged into Vineyard Sound. So that's something that's going to have to be taken into consideration. And our wastewater superintendent's working with the state on that for the groundwater modeling. So that's all got to be taken into consideration too. With it's the wastewater, the water, the irrigation wells. What the water department and for DPW, for our stance is, we do not want residents pumping treated water that we pump, that we put through our system and bring it to the resident's house for drinking water. We don't want that being put up for irrigation on the lawn. So that's why we would, as for Public Works, we would like to see, if there's going to be a irrigation of lawns, we would like to have it for private irrigation wells. We've already had several conversations with the health agent, and I think we do have some additional conversations that are going to go on town-wide with other services. But that's something that I think it is going to need to be addressed. So we're putting out one clear message to the entire town.
Thank you. Okay. Did you have additional questions?
I will pause for now.
Okay. Mr. Brown?
Mr. Lannon, with the Ashumet well, were you thinking of just new wellheads with the existing equipment that's there, or a whole new system?
It's all, so that during the conceptual design, which hopefully will start sometime this month, coming month in September, we'll determine if we can use that existing well or we have to find a new location in that proximity to drill a new well to provide water to a treatment facility. Until we can do that, all the conceptual design, we can't really say yes or no to the existing location. Yes, the building would be new, it wouldn't be the existing one there.
I believe the Air Force or some government agency is providing $8 million or so, and I thought that there was going to be a carbon filtration plant to go along with this Ashumet well. Is that an old thought, or is that still in play?
I'm not aware of that. I mean, the agreement with the town and the Air Force is that if we provide them with the conceptual design to make Ashumet a new source or return that as a source, that the Air Force would be required under agreement to build a new treatment facility to treat the water at that well source for potable water consumption.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Muscali, did you have questions?
Thank you. First, a comment. I'd like to echo what Chair Goldstone said with respect to what I say is a flaw in the process. The comments that I made a couple of meetings ago may have been taken by some people, and maybe yourself, Mr. Landon, as a criticism of you. And I want to clarify the record that it was never meant to be a criticism of you. I appreciate you bringing this issue to the fore, and something we got to take a look at. But I do think that matters such as this need to be brought to the Select Board first and foremost. These are policy decisions that are our responsibility to deal with. But I wanted the public to know that I support you and that I think you did a very good job in bringing this information forward. Two questions. When was the historical low of 1.82 or whatever it was? How long ago was that? Do you know?
I believe it was 2002.
Okay.
August of 2002.
Yeah. And we recovered considerably, right? I mean.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Okay. I'm just. And I guess the second one, I know that you and Mr. Brown appeared, what was it, before the county commissioners? Yeah. I mean, what are the options for collaboration with other towns here on the Upper Cape to try and work towards solving this problem? As you said, I mean, the other towns are all dealing with it. Are there any discussions about collaboration, towns working together, getting the county involved, and there's just some hope for the future?
I mean, this just happened not even a month ago, so the word is out that we need to work as a county and not just as a the town of Falmouth to improve our existing conditions. So it sounds like from what I've gathered from other communities is that they're in the same position, and we just need to find out the best design for the future that's going to work for all of Cape Cod.
I just add something to that. Excuse me. So, yes, with the county commission, I think what we don't want to be doing is going Falmouth alone. So if we cannot be doing it regionally, we at least want to be looking at this as the Upper Cape. all the 4 towns on the Upper Cape that will be affected. And Matt did have a slide that showed the Joint Base Cape Cod. Depending on what happens up there, that could be a big deal, because that, if they're doing a lot of, going to be looking at doing a lot of development up there, I think the state and the towns, the Upper Cape towns, need to really be having consideration and conversations on that, and not Falmouth, Bourne, Sandwich, Mashpee. It should, we really need to be having those conversations with everyone together to come up with a solution on this. Everyone's in the same boat. The Lower Cape's in a little different situation. They're off a different lens. The Middle Cape's off a different lens. But we're all in that same, with the water conservation issue.
And just one more question, if I may. Do you think we need to adjust what we consider to be seasonal customers? It seems to me, and I think it's proven out, that many more people are coming in October and staying through October, and yet they're in a different classification when we look at customers and so forth. And similarly, on the other side, people are coming out, in May as opposed to coming out in June. I'm just wondering, do we need to look at how we're qualifying seasonal residents and year-round residents, which may change your analysis at some point?
So the numbers that are provided for the average 1 million gallons per day for those time allotments from the peak demand summer months versus the non-peak are based on the pumped water in each of those months versus the summer months. Most of those averages from October up to May are about 3 million gallons per day, but then just jumps right up to 8.5 million gallons for most of May, June, July, August, September. So are the actual numbers of residents that are using that much water impacting that? It's tough to say, but those are the actual physical numbers that we're providing through our revenued water.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown, then back to Ms. Klein, and then I'll ask
Okay.
a couple of questions myself.
So this is spurring thought that maybe we should, after this meeting, send a letter to the surrounding towns and ask them if they want to form a water committee to maybe gather our thoughts on the condition of all 4 towns, maybe then share our thoughts with the Mass Development or the Joint Base Cape Cod folks about our maybe potential concerns about the overdevelopment there.
No, I think, point taken, it's all one lens, and we do not want to end up in a Colorado River situation. So working together sooner rather than later on how we do some concerted management, I think is spot on. Ms. Klein.
Mr. Lannon, I recognize the challenges that your department faces with enforcement. I'm out early in the mornings frequently, and I see things, but that's not when your team would be able really to be there.
Correct.
But I would also imagine that, there's a drastic difference in the amount of water used in a home that's irrigating versus not irrigating. I have a house, couple houses down, their sprinklers are on 3 mornings a week, and have been, I think, probably that jump you just described, right?
Yep.
That's when sprinklers go on.
Yep.
Is there a way to try and use the water consumption to do some targeted mailings? Because I think one thing that's happened is I speak to my seasonal neighbors who have no idea that they're not supposed to be irrigating. Some of them have stopped irrigating after I've spoken to them in a kind and considerate way, just clarifying. But some of them have not, and because nothing has happened to them as a result. So would that be a possibility to try and better communicate the irrigation limitations? And I agree with you that when we keep shifting the guidelines, it's very hard to follow, especially if you're someone who's here on the weekend, and then you go back to wherever and you go to work all week, and then you're back on the weekend. I think that's very challenging.
So again, to clarify, when the drought task force issues their future drought level for each section of the state, it's for the data from the previous month. So if we got 6 inches of rain 2 days before the drought task force meeting, that's not included in the existing drought implications that are restrictions that are put into place. So people question that and think that I'm just making it up. So that part is frustrating. The part about actually trying to capture who's irrigating and not, we tried to go to what's called advanced meter reading. We did a study for that right when I started here. Because we're at sea level, we need about 16 repeaters to read the whole town digitally. Currently, we read semi-annually, which is 16 books for 2 staff members to read for each billing cycle. So we would ultimately have to read the entire town in a day or within a week to gather who's using irrigation in that time frame, and then break it down internally and then send out notices, which is...
You've just described a large task.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
At the same time, it seems like even with semi-annual, there's got to be a way to see a difference, but not every household is using the same amount of water. And I think to your point, even if it were just targeted, understanding that we would hit some number of residents who are not irrigating, who are following all of the rules and still have high water usage for whatever reason, that if we simply took the top 30% or the top quarter of water users in the town of Falmouth on an annual basis and sent them a mailing reminding them about water use restrictions and rules and regulations.
Yeah, so last year, we tried to track the restrictions under level 2 drought. Within a month, I had about 800 work orders with 800 independent mailers for 2 to 3 time repeat offenders, and people still neglected to turn off the irrigation. So that's what I'm faced at, and ultimately what needs to be implemented some way is a fee structure that can be utilized for repeat offenders that's going to make them actually turn off the irrigation or follow the irrigation restriction.
You know, that was actually you were leading into my
Exactly.
my next one, which is when was the last time we changed the water rates? And if someone is using drinking water to water their lawn, I would be very comfortable with them having to pay a significantly higher amount of money.
Yeah. I would agree that looking at the tiered structure to ensure that obviously doesn't fall on our average users and those who are following all the rules, but to create a significant disincentive for excessive water use and make sure that it's a strong disincentive.
We do have that
I think
now.
what we really need to do first is focus on all of the businesses and the commercials. I was driving by Gifford Street at Jones Road, and I'm not going to say the business, but I ended up going into the facility multiple times, and they finally turned it off. When you're an eyesore right on the way to downtown and the phone keeps ringing at DPW for failure to turn off irrigation system, that's where we need to start as the businesses. And then after that, then we tackle the residential users. But it's the commercials that just let it go. 30 minutes a zone, every single day, 7 days a week. They have no neglect.
So we're not going to solve every problem here tonight. I think we've surfaced one really big problem that we have to continue to grapple with, which is irrigation and how we make sure that everybody knows what the rules are, and then how we have the resources to enforce and how we disincent. All of those pieces with regard to irrigation need some continued attention. I want to shift gears a little bit maybe and try to understand where we're butting up against limits. So you said, for one, we're coming close to our permitted daily pumping limit. What is that limit?
So it's 4.31 million gallons a day is what we can pump maximum on an average of 365 days. Okay. So we could pump 12 million gallons at the peak demand summer day, and then pump 3 million gallons in the dead of winter. But if we ever get to that point where our average exceeds that, then we're going to be handcuffed.
Okay. What is that based on? Is that a purely regulatory? Is that based on an assessment of how much water there is in our aquifer that we can be withdrawing sustainably?
That's based on our Water Management Act permit and registration withdrawals from the Cape Cod lines. So Long Pond is a registered volume of water that we can take out annually each year. All of our permitted wells are, we can only take out a certain amount per day per year. In total, that's how we create that number of 4.31. And that's, when we go for new source approval, like we did back for Long Pond when it became a new plant, that was the conditions that's set forth by DEP.
With the USGS study that was done looking at our long-range water supply and the trend that we've all seen of more intense downpours that don't actually recharge our groundwater, do we have a sense of what we can expect in terms of the decline in our available aquifer? And is there any process that would modify our daily limit, our pumping limit, based on decline in water supply, declining recharge long-term?
I do not believe there's any clause in there that if we get to a certain level, we can no longer pump. But if you think of the intake being only 4 feet down right now, when we only get to about within a couple inches below that, we're not going to be able to pull the volume of water. It's a gravity-driven system that actually pushes the water into our raw water intake and then into our facility.
I guess I know I'm asking for a hard number to come up with, but I'm trying to get to, like, can we get to a number that we need to decrease our water usage by to ensure that we actually are within sustainable limits long-term? And maybe the answer is no, but that's...
Yeah.
Mike Rigetto, Chief Operator. How do I change this? So this is the most important thing to look at. You see that basically at the top is 2020, and then it kind of goes down every year, and that's where we start.
Mike, sorry, could you stay at the microphone so the folks at home can hear you? You might be able to use the cursor.
I mean, it actually jumps around a fair bit, though, right? 2021 is low.
Sure, but
2024 is the second highest.
well, 2020.
And I'm not debating that we have a long-term downward trend. It's just hard to tell.
But if you look
how
at the
much of
start of the year, the orange line, which is the second one down, is 21, and then it goes to 22, and so on. So you can see there's clearly a pattern of decline every year that we start off. And the worry is that if that trend continues, we had a good July. We actually gained in July for the first time in 10 years in Long Pond. But if that trend continues, then we'll get to a point where we're in trouble. And I think, once we hit 2 feet, that's when we have to make some decisions.
I'd like to make the decisions well before we get to 2 feet.
But 2 feet would still give us that would give us at least a year of water.
Okay.
Because, well, I don't want to get into the weeds of the USGS, but we're looking at like 50 million gallons per foot, which doesn't seem like a lot, but there's a constant recharge. We almost recharge what we take out every day, slowly decreases, but there's a lot of water.
Can I ask, and maybe you're the right person for this other question, the situation that we hit over 4th of July weekend this year where we could not refill our elevated tanks. First of all, based on what you presented here, we don't actually put enough into those tanks to meet peak daily usage, right? So there's some amount, there's 8 million that we're storing. We hit 8.5, 9 of peak.
So
peak usage.
The overall problem with the storage, or it's not a problem, it's the way we're designed. So if we're pumping 10 million a day in the summer and 3 in the winter, you need to turn those tanks over. So in theory, we could have 10 million gallons in the air, but in the winter, we can't turn that over, so you get stagnation. So we think we have kind of the perfect balance right now. In terms of it not recharging, the plants ramp up and down based on tank height. So as tanks drop, plants ramp up. Typically in the summer, Long Pond will shut off around midnight, and then it'll turn on around 2 in the morning. The tanks were just about full, but it never shut off.
Right.
And that's rare.
Well, so that was my next question. It was a pumping capacity problem, not a water availability problem. Is that correct?
So the tanks were, maybe a foot below full, which is not a lot of water. But it was just a situation we don't really see often.
Right. Also, while worrisome, less worrisome to me if what we need is a little bit more pumping and treatment capacity than if we literally didn't have the water to pump and treat to meet that demand.
Yeah, so everything we have is full steam ahead. We're pumping in the summer almost 15,000 gallons a minute, and our tanks are still dropping like a rock. So that means consumers are using probably 20 to 25,000 gallons a minute in the morning in the summer.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, Liz, and then I want to also make sure that we have a little bit of time here. Getting questions answered and wrapping our heads around this is really important. If board members have ideas like reaching out to other towns, looking at our water rate structure, ideas for continued discussion and consideration on either the policy or capital investment front, want to get those on record.
Then hold on, because that's what I wanted to talk about. So skip me for now.
Okay. Well, I guess any other questions, or we'll start throwing ideas around. Go for it.
Okay. So I think that it's quite obvious to me that irrigation is something that we need to be better targeting. And I think your clarification regarding private wells in the current drought situation is one that is not well known, Madam Chair, and so I think that that's important. And then I came up with kind of a list of some things. I did some looking around to see what other communities have tried, other communities that have struggled with water availability. I think one topic that I would really like to discuss is the possibility of requiring gray water systems in new construction and in municipal buildings. And so for folks who are not familiar, that's the idea that, for example, you could use the water that you used to wash your hands in the sink to flush your toilet, because you do not need the water in the toilet to be potable. And that can have really significant impacts on water conservation. Mr. Lannon alluded to maybe looking at rain barrels or other cisterns, because like you said, Dr. Goldstone, we're seeing these precipitation events that we're seeing now is the way that most climate scientists think our area is going to continue, where we have really, really heavy rainfall events that are delivering more water than our system can handle at the moment. And rather than let that water escape us, I think we could look into ways to try and capture it and store it for future use. I've read about in larger cities, for example, they're doing things like creating cisterns underneath parks. And so when you have a large rainfall event, the cistern underneath a park is able to fill with water, and then later on that water is pumped to provide any water needed in that facility. And I also think we should think about a municipal policy where, whenever possible, we are no longer planting and maintaining grass. I know some people have more affection for large green lawns than I personally do. If you came to my house, some folks would be pretty horrified. But, you know, we are, I'm interested in looking at plants that can flourish, looking at pollinator meadows, and that also can have an impact on workload required, because not only do those types of plantings need less water, they also need less maintenance.
Excellent. Mr. Brown, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think we need to get a program for preventing the irrigation, certainly with potable water. I think we need to have a conversation about whether or not the irrigation wells are really harmful, and I don't know if that's just copying state language. I know the state language is probably being used for the health department's rules, but I'd like to know if that's really something that we have to follow as a town, or if we can offer an out for these folks that really love their lawns and they want to spend the money to get an irrigation well. So I think we should have that conversation. And ultimately, if you're using potable water to use for irrigation, you should be fined. And I think people don't pay attention until it actually hits them in the pocketbook sometimes, so.
On the flip side of that, I really appreciated, Mr. Lannon, one of your suggestions for policy ideas, which is ramping up incentive programs and reimbursements and that sort of thing for actual, whether it's rain barrels or, for that matter, if you are not using low-flow toilets, that just flushing your toilets can account for 25 to 30% of your household water usage, right? So, and those are not, in my experience, if you do like a Mass Saves home energy audit, they'll put some low-flow things on your taps and maybe hand you a low-flow shower, but they're not going to recommend replacing your toilets that are using 25%. So, you know, that finding those areas where there could be incentives for water reduction measures, I think, is another important one.
I've been
Carrot and
advocating
stick.
for that for years at our strategic planning meetings.
Yep. So, Mr. Muscali?
Not specifically. I mean, I think the discussion is starting. I think we need to put some more time and effort into thinking about possible solutions. Certainly collaborating with other towns on the Upper Cape and getting the county involved, I think, is something we need to pursue. The idea of charging developers access fees, I think, is something we may want to take a look at as well going forward. So, right off the bat, those are my couple of ideas.
Yes.
I just had one last one. Mr. Lannon did allude to this. So with the permitting and design of the outfall, is there a possibility of using non-potable water? I mean, I guess it's coming from people's
and
septics
Mr. Brown
and
actually
then
brought this up at a
or
previous
sewers.
meeting, you know, how expensive and technically feasible would it be to have offshoots to, say, water the golf course or to water fields, large areas with offshoots from the outfall, so that that's not water that's just literally going out to sea.
And Ms. Lowell at the time asked that we not try to consider incorporating new ideas into the outfall design because it was already pretty much further down the road. But she said that the laying those pipes would be a different type of situation. They probably didn't have to be as deep because they're just going to be seasonal for irrigation use and whatnot. So, yeah, we can revisit that. And again, it's good that the outfall pipe goes right past the water treatment plant if we really get desperate.
All right. Any other thoughts or ideas folks want to make sure we get out there this evening?
I just think I want to bring it back to a big picture that in the face of this challenge, I think we as a community are going to have to be willing to change our behavior. Right? I think a lot about environmental challenges and human response. It's part of my job and something I think about in my personal life as well. And so if we as a community are concerned about this, I think it will be something that folks are going to have to adapt to. You know, adapting to gray water systems, for example. First, there's a bit of an ick factor for some folks maybe, but if it's in the interests of preserving drinking water as a, you know, potentially the most fundamental of the needs for life, I think that I am confident that the residents of Falmouth will rise to that, but I just want to bring us back to that big picture idea that we're going to have to change what we're doing in order to respond to this.
Certainly true.
Yeah. I would at the same time say, obviously policy decisions are a combination of informed by facts and also opinions in there. And I think we need to be careful of simply saying no new development and making year-round housing the enemy here when in fact creating housing for 330 people year-round would increase our water usage by 1%, which we've got 3% that's going unaccounted for. We've got water reduction measures that could be put in place. And I think we need to think holistically about how we ensure that we are using water sustainably, but not necessarily making that an all or nothing, no new development.
You know, it's not really in our ballpark, but we should also somehow try to influence developers to not have dead-end water lines that have to be flushed. We have whole peninsulas that have dead ends, which is a real problem for us, so we need to think about that as well. I know we have a standing pipe at the end of Central Ave that just runs constantly just to alleviate that problem. So there's other things we can look at. It's challenging, but someday we need to run a loop back down Seacoast Shores and Central Ave, or whichever ones. I don't know all of them, but we got to think about those things too, because we do waste some water by flushing.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you for being here for the discussion and for raising this really important issue. And thank you to the whole board for the discussion. Obviously, we haven't solved our water problems in one night, but I think we've got a good foundation for continuing discussions.
And we had some good suggestions on, so we're not ready to vote it tonight, but maybe we should try to craft a motion to say permanent irrigation bans in Falmouth on potable water, so that we're not wishy-washy on the state trout rules. I mean, that's something we can do if we want to. Not today, I don't think.
Why don't we, that's a pretty significant measure. Why don't we give that one a little bit of thought and actually have a draft for that? I do think that making sure that we figure out whether we've got any conflicting advice and regulations on the use of irrigation wells and starting to get that message out consistently. Just what the existing rules are is really important. I think we could have some discussion around what's the right irrigation, long-term irrigation policy, though. Does that feel fair? Okay. Excellent. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to move on to discuss and consider approving a letter of support for a marine highway project grant on behalf of Tisbury Towing and Transportation. Mr. Renshaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Real quickly, I know we're behind on time. If you recall, Select Board, back on January 27th of last year, the board approved a letter of support for this marine highway project grant on behalf of Tisbury Towing and Transportation. My office was contacted earlier this month, August 5th, by Mrs. Debbie Packer, who's a representative of Tisbury Towing and Transportation. Debbie was excited. She thanked the board for its support last year and also indicated that they made it to the final round in what's a very competitive grant process. And although they weren't awarded a grant the last cycle last year, they've been encouraged to apply again, as it often takes a couple of application cycles to receive this highly competitive grant. For background purposes, for those folks in the audience that don't know, the United States Marine Highway Program is a discretionary transportation grant that's administered by the Maritime Administration. Funds for this Marine Highway Program grant are awarded, as I mentioned, on a very competitive basis to projects on designated U.S. marine highway routes that provide a coordinated and capable alternative to landside transportation in order to promote marine highway transportation. In effect, they want to take trucks off the interstate in the I-95 corridor in particular with this grant. Through the development and promotion of marine highway transportation, this program aims to relieve, again, landside traffic congestion and generate other public benefits, health benefits as well, by increasing the efficiency of our surface transportation system. Tisbury Towing and Transportation, which is owned by R.M. Packer, is pursuing this federal grant to construct, in effect, a new boat ramp at the Tisbury Marine Terminal, which proponents say could help relieve the Steamship Authority of hazardous materials and trash and increase the commercial transportation between the island and New Bedford. As you all recall, several residents of Woods Hole and the Smart Citizens Task Force last year supported this letter. And if awarded the grant, construction of this new boat ramp, repairs to the existing bulkhead, and modernizing the electricity will help expand their business operation and streamline the island's commercial transportation. Since Tisbury Towing and Transportation operates out of New Bedford, any truck or tractor trailer they are able to transport decreases congestion in Falmouth, on the Woods Hole Road corridor, and the Steamship Authority terminal area. Madam Chair and Select Board, a draft letter has been prepared, very similar to last year's letter, for the Select Board's review and approval, and I'm requesting the Select Board either approve submittal of the letter attached or approve submittal of a revised letter with Select Board edits.
Thank you very much.
I have a question. So I'm very interested in this, but I'm curious, when they're saying they want a new boat ramp, are they intending to bring trucks? Or it also mentions that the barge is more effective at bringing sand and so forth, which we already know. Do you know if they're intending to do trucks as well? Is that the idea?
That's not my understanding. It's mostly the barge traffic, and talking to Mrs. Packer, that's the primary focus.
They just want to increase the volume of what they're doing now?
Correct.
Okay.
And in order to do that, in their estimation, they need to expand the capacity of that dockside.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, is there a motion?
I have a motion to approve the letter of support as drafted by the town manager for a marine highway project grant on behalf of Tisbury Towing and Transportation.
And I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. And next, discuss and consider a vote to extend the East Falmouth Library Building Advisory Committee. Mr. Renshaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Peter, the assistant town manager, has worked very hard on this item, so I'm going to flip it over to Peter. Peter?
Thank you. So the board may recall when you created and appointed the East Falmouth Library Building Advisory Committee, the initial charge was to retain an owner's project manager and an architect and see it through the preliminary design phase as defined by the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. And they did a terrific job in doing that, and the state library commissioners accepted the preliminary design, and as the board is aware, we received construction funding a lot sooner than anticipated. So we are requesting tonight that the select board consider extending the building advisory committee through the construction process. We have 3 members of the board that are here tonight, along with acting library director Meg Borden. And I am advised that 4 of the 5 members have expressed interest in re-upping. Chris Simler, who served as the chair, has professional commitments and is not able to continue.
Excellent. Okay. Meg or others, is there anything else you'd like us to know as we consider this? No. If so, please come to one of the microphones. Sorry, so that folks at home can hear you as well.
Meg Borden, Acting Library Director. I think Peter Johnson-Stobbs explained it perfectly well. I first of all want to compliment the existing committee that ended when we got the design process through. They have been excellent, and I'm very happy that a few members have decided to stay along. So I would hope that you would decide to continue this contingent to it passing the vote. Thanks.
Excellent. All right. I would say I think it's really important that we continue this committee, and in fact would love to see it back up and running sooner rather than later, given that we are in the midst of leadership transition and perhaps expect another round of leadership transition at the library in the course of this project. Having consistent, not just project leadership, because we've got plenty of strong leadership around, but consistent spokespeople and support for this project throughout the process feels really important. And I think also getting out there and advocating for this project between now and town meeting and the vote in November to make sure that our whole community is aware of what this project is and what's at stake is also really important. So, yes, Ms. Klein.
Yeah, I would echo those sentiments. I think this is an important project, and we don't want to lose any ground here. They've made such great progress, and I would be in favor of extending the committee.
Sounds like a motion to me. Well, I'd let Ms. Klein make the motion.
I'll make a motion to extend the East Falmouth Library Building Advisory Committee through design and construction phases of the project.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Whoop, Ms. Fenwick.
Judy Fenwick, Chair of the Board of Library Trustees and a member of FLBAC. I just want clarification on we've got a vacancy and how the process will play out to fill that vacancy.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, go
Sure.
for it.
Yeah,
I would assume it's the usual process.
Yes, so we will advertise a vacancy on the position, accept applications, and interview applicants. You know, as you're aware, Madam Chair, we typically set a timeline for applications to be received, and if we have one or more by that date, then we go ahead and schedule the interviews. If we don't have any applications, that date can always be extended. So the only other thing I would add to that is we do have we have a really nice mix of qualifications on the committee with library expertise, building expertise, general citizen interest, I should say library professional expertise. We have still one remaining, a committee member with construction expertise, but that might be an area that is a particular interest to have another member if we can get someone with design or construction experience.
And along those lines, with 4 current members and a 5-member committee, that means that the committee does have a quorum and can continue its work immediately as we continue looking to fill that vacancy as well. So, excellent. All right, well, we turned a 15-minute item into about a 5-minute item and are miraculously not far off of our projected timing here. So on to our last business item of the night, which is a discussion of adopting a policy relative to surveillance cameras.
So I will kick it off. So on the national scene, Select Board and the community knows that this issue of flock cameras or surveillance cameras is a matter of huge discussion and debate across the country. A couple of Select Board members requested that we have this for an initial discussion tonight to have a discussion about creating a policy that would prevent the use, installation of these flock or surveillance cameras in town. I invited members of the police department. Chief Laurie and a couple of his command staff are here tonight to answer any specific questions, technical questions that you may have, being experts in the field. But the direction I'm trying to get tonight from the Select Board is at a future meeting, coming back with a more informed, we can provide some data and some information, perhaps do some benchmarking what other communities are doing in terms of the policy, and then bring that document back. But really looking tonight for direction as to whether or not this is a policy an initiative that you want staff to pursue.
Excellent, thank you. Chief, would you and your staff like to come up? So we'll take a little break here, and we'll start with the good news. Yes, we voted to approve the grant for the canines, and by the way, congratulations on being recognized with a first place prize for community policing by the, Massachusetts State?
New
England Association of Chiefs of Police.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Really, yeah. we'll do it again while you're actually here.
Yeah. Good stuff. So in regards to flock, just in the last week, I think you're talking Grafton, Auburn, Bellingham. There was one other department, escapes me, I apologize. I think Middleborough too, potentially. I had a long conversation with the Canton Police Chief about it. He asked me what some of my concerns were. So we've implemented a lot of technology since I've been here that I think has been very effective. We use the drones to do surveillance for large events and different things. If we were using it for a criminal case, we'd have to write a warrant. We do use surveillance cameras in the same way along those lines. We use folks' Ring doorbell cameras, to solve crime and do different things. Flock concerns me, is what I told the area chiefs. I told the town manager I have no desire to implement that program, especially now considering the constitutional and AI issues that are going on and some of the misuse. Captain DeCosta isn't here, but he's my accreditation manager. We would have to really do a very robust policy to make sure there wouldn't be misuse, which I don't think there would be here. They do some good things helping people, but there are some avenues with it now too that are concerning law enforcement, or they wouldn't be deactivating them. So at this point, I have no desire to implement, flock cameras, in Falmouth. And like I said, even the road race, we had a resident reached out to Mr. Renchar about, a camera. I saw someone installing a camera. That was the state police, and that was for the road race, not pointing at anyone's house, to monitor the field. We had cameras all along that road race. We had, I think, 5 or 6 drones operating that to give us traffic. We had someone that went down at the 3-mile mark, and it gives us a pinpoint exactly where that person is, where we can get the assets to them, and how we can get through the crowds and get through the traffic. So they are a needed tool, especially for criminal investigations. One of the questions I was asked, do we share this footage with ICE or federal authorities? I've never, in my time experience, sharing anything with ICE. However, if we have a bank robbery and the FBI is working with us, we're going to share the video that the bank gives us, along those roads. We work with the DEA. If you look at our social media page and the press releases that have been done, we made an arrest, and we would share that data with the DEA. They're our partners to try to make a difference in the opiate issues that we have in town. Just coming from an event tonight down at the Village Green that was very inspiring. So yes, we use them. So I would just caution that I wouldn't take that away from the police. It's a very valuable tool. But right now, if you're asking me about Flock, I have no plans or desire to do that. I'm very happy with the Body Worn Camera program that we implemented and all the other technology that you folks have supported us on. As I'm in my 4th year here, and Flock's just not one of them right now, especially with all the questions that are out there. And like I said, friends of mine that are police chiefs that are saying, you know what, I'm putting a hold on this, not comfortable with it right now, until some of these constitutional questions and AI questions, some of the things these cameras can do, it's pretty something. So it's not anything I think Falmouth would support, and it's not something right now I can implement, given what we're facing, not just on a national, but a local, very local level.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm glad to know that, first of all, we're not facing an imminent, we want to roll these out. So we're ahead of the game and have the time to work together to craft a thoughtful policy about surveillance cameras. I guess one question I have for you is if you were to differentiate between flock cameras, which you do not want to use, and the cameras that you are currently using, is it that the cameras are technically different? Is it that the usage is different? What differentiates those in your mind?
Basically, I'm going to turn it over to the crew here. So Lieutenant Cummings, sadly, Lieutenant Semino's retiring. He's my detective division commander. He'll be taking over the DB in January, and Lieutenant Hurd is my patrol division commander, and that's why I brought them here. Any specific questions, I'll defer to them.
Jim Cummings, Lieutenant at the Falmouth Police Department. I'm sorry, could you just repeat the question?
Wondering if, in thinking about the ways that Falmouth Police Department is using cameras at the moment versus not being interested in using flock cameras or those sorts of surveillance cameras, is that a technological distinction? Is that just the same cameras but being used differently? What's the difference?
So Flock is a name brand. It's an ALPR, automated license plate reading technology. It's used in a lot of applications, not just in law enforcement. Mass DOT has hundreds and hundreds of ALPRs across the state that you drive past every day. The cameras that we use now are not fitted with ALPR technology. We do not use ALPR in our devices or devices that we use. So the devices at the road race, we don't use the ALPR technology that they have available on them. We simply use it for video, and I even hate to use the word surveillance. It's just public safety monitoring of large-scale events is our biggest thing. We can use them in investigations. The oversight for using cameras, a fixed camera in an investigation, is a very high bar to meet in the Commonwealth. We would have to get a judicial warrant to do it. But like the chief said, other communities, other federal and state agencies do use ALPR. There are partner agencies, and we have used ALPR in very specific instances and we've achieved great results. The most common ones are the elderly person that drives away from their home and their family can't find them. We've used it multiple times. We found people in Connecticut, New York, New Hampshire, using ALPR technology to run their license plate through the system and see if there's any hits on it. I think everybody's fully aware now. Both the Bourne and Sagamore Bridge have ALPR technology on both sides and at multiple points around them. That can be very useful to see if somebody, whether they're a suspect or we have a community caretaking concern, if somebody has crossed either one of the bridges. We know where we're looking and if we have to expand our search area for that individual. So right now we don't use them. The cameras that we do have and we do use, up until very recently, we had a portable camera trailer system that had multiple cameras on it. That system basically became outdated. We donated it to a partner agency, and they've rebuilt it. But the surveillance and monitoring cameras that we use, we're not looking to use flock, and we have not used flock on those devices thus far.
Great. I'll just to the board, if there are questions, and then we can move into discussion.
What's the problem with flock? That's what and I think that was what you were trying to get to. I mean, what actually is the problem, and you know, what's the problem with them from a constitutional point of view?
So the problem is, and I don't want to go too far into the constitutional part of it,
right.
But just to try to keep it easy. So if we're monitoring or we're looking for information about a single location of a person or a vehicle, in this case with ALPR technology, that's usually not a problem. What it is when you start building out, and they call it in Massachusetts courts, they call it the mosaic theory. If you're building out and mapping a pattern of somebody's daily life, whether it's comings and goings from their house, you know, especially, you know, sensitive things like religious worship and things like that. That's where you start to see it. So when you set up an ALPR network, it's constantly gathering data. And the way you get the data is you query it from a license plate. So you enter the license plate number into the system, and it gives you all the cameras, the times and locations they went back. It gives you a little picture of the license plate, usually part of the vehicle's in it. And that can become a problem. And what we're seeing now, you know, aside from the AI technology that's also kind of been developed for these somewhat unknowingly for a lot of departments, I think, you're starting to see where policies weren't in place to protect people's civil liberties. That's, you know, from somebody who has a leadership position at the Falmouth Police Department, I mean, I can say without a doubt that's a breakdown of leadership at these departments, and that's why people are getting terminated. They're doing things wrong, but people aren't monitoring them. And that's really what the New Bedford issue is the biggest one. They're going to lose several officers. They're going to be terminated because they misuse the system for personal use.
So I guess my question is, the flock camera is a potentially very useful tool. It's the policies aren't up to date to prevent them being used improperly, as was happening in New Bedford with the one particular officer and so forth. So with adequate policies, which will take some time to develop, this system would be an enhancement for your investigations and so forth.
When used correctly, in the instances when we have used it in investigations through partner agencies, it is a force multiplier. You can't possibly have enough police officers to do the monitoring that one flock camera can do, never mind a network of flock cameras. But, you know, there has to be accountability, and there has to be, you know, New Bedford's a great example, and I don't have the exact details, but, you know, every flock policy basis says there has to be, you know, regular audits. And apparently those weren't happening. And those are breakdowns of a system that probably was implemented, you know, however, and the kind of the policy and the culture of the department didn't keep up with the technology they had, which allowed it to get abused. And the other, you know, like the chief alluded to, again, with the advancement of AI can do things that people never imagined a year ago, never mind 10 years ago when they put their flock cameras up. And I think there is some concern that the manufacturer has this technology and police departments aren't fully aware of what that technology can do, who has access to the technology, and things like that. So I think, I would agree with the chief. It's not a technology that we're looking to pursue to install in Falmouth right now, from the police department perspective. But again, when we use it with partner agencies, it has become, it's been very useful. And not just, I can think of very few criminal cases where we've used it. Again, it's a lot of those exigent community caretaking cases where there's a missing person that has no idea where they are. And we've used it very successfully in multiple occasions that I can think of just the top of my head.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? Yes, Mr. Brown.
It seems like it would be a challenge for the policy to keep up with the technology, right? Because it's always changing.
That is, and that's, as Captain DaCosta moves us towards accreditation, that is one of the great aspects of accreditation is your policy has to constantly be updated. It has to be reviewed annually. Mechanisms are put into place so the policy can be updated, very, very quickly without redoing the whole policy. And I think when we get to that accreditation standpoint and we have the systems fully in place at the Falmouth Police Department that allow us to constantly, adjust where we are and what the reality of our operations are, then I think we'd be in a better place. But again, we're not even considering that right now.
Is there a different type of system that you might consider now, or are you just going to work on the policies and then?
I think as far as ALPR, we're not interested in doing anything in town right now. I think through the 4th of July, the Falmouth Road Race, Barnstable County Fair, our bigger events, we have really seen the benefits from increased monitoring, whether it be drones or fixed cameras. I think, like I said, we recently lost the use of our camera trailer that was at a lot of our smaller events. The street fair, the Christmas parade, some of these other events where it's much more difficult for us to draw outside resources because of the size of the event. So I do think that there is room for us to try to grow our capability of having monitoring cameras that do not have ALPR, but are simply used for us to monitor events to maintain public safety.
Thank you.
Ms. Klein? Thanks for being here this evening. I will say that I share the chief's concerns about security and privacy. Those are my bigger concerns. I don't have the maybe misuse or abuse concerns that I think some other communities have experienced, because I think the quality of our department lends itself for me to kind of leave that concern behind. But I do have concerns about data security. Can you think of any communities that you know of that have implemented, maybe not flock cameras specifically as a brand, but this type of technology where they've put some guardrails into place and it seems like it's been successful? Could you identify any successful guardrails?
So there's a lot of successes out there. Right now, there's just a lot of unanswered questions. So I'm just not prepared at this point to implement them. I need a lot of questions answered. And to see a plethora of agencies that are deactivating their cameras across Massachusetts is very telling. So if these chiefs are deactivating them, it's not something I want to activate right now until a lot of these questions are answered. Do I think it's a valuable tool? It can be. It really can be. But I want to make sure, like you said, we have a policy that's ironclad and making sure we're doing these audits and these different things. And right now, I just don't have the personnel and the time to do it right. I lost a lieutenant. I have 4 lieutenants. I lost a lieutenant to body cameras. 90% of what he does every day is body cameras. And so, that's a whole nother level of monitoring just to make sure so I can tell you folks, hey, here in Falmouth, we're doing everything right. So not only do I not have, the want right now to take on that project because of all the unanswered questions out there, I really don't have the personnel as well to take on this project, to do it right. I don't want to see something happen where, because, like you said, my lack of leadership, that I don't get the job done and the correct audits aren't done, which we are doing with the body-worn cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'll say my concerns, similarly, obviously it's important to have the rules in place and to be doing the audits to ensure that there is not abuse of the system, but that's not where my primary concern stems from. It is from the civil liberties issues, knowing that a lot of these cameras at this point do not just capture a license plate, they take pictures of people's faces and have identities, and it is a level of surveillance that I think there are a lot of questions about whether it's even constitutional, let alone is it a desirable level of surveillance for everyone living and visiting our community. Completely agree that having cameras and eyes on large events that already have a much higher level of scrutiny, and constitutionally the bar for search, right, when you're at a large event is very different than when you're just walking down Main Street to go get dinner. And so I think thinking about that is where my greatest concern is.
That's all of the above. You're absolutely right. There's a whole host of concerns that I need answers to as the chief of police to even consider it. And right now, it's not an option for us.
For the board, in terms of, the goal here was to surface this issue, make sure that we were doing so proactively, and get direction from the board in terms of development of a policy or not, and how we would want to pursue that.
I think our policy would be really that we would review and make sure that the police have their policy, because it's really their management tool, I think. I mean, it's a whole new thing.
I think it would probably be a town policy, obviously working with the police department, and there would be policies specific to staff usage within the department, but yeah.
I think we need to wait and see what happens and how this plays out before we start trying to develop a policy at this point.
I think
guess
for
I would
us,
disagree. I don't want to be in a situation where we're caught unaware, which is where a lot of communities have ended up.
I have a question, though. So if our police chief is standing here stating that he's not interested in implementing this program, is it possible for individuals, right? So could I go out and buy something like this and mount it at the end of my driveway? Would that be something that I would be able to do?
Yes.
So then that speaks to, if a private individual is able to do it,
Companies can do it.
or businesses can do it, then I think we should be proactive then, and not wait. I do think we want to be careful about whatever we do. Well, we can amend things in the future, right? Because we may learn more, to the chief's point and to Mr. Miscali's point, where we do want to change. But I think if we're in a situation where, right now, my understanding is that there aren't cameras operating. I looked online, and there's websites where you can look at where these kinds of cameras are, and I did not see any in Falmouth as of right now. But there are cameras in our neighboring towns, and so I spoke with a range of individuals over the weekend to try and find out from folks in the community, what do they think about these cameras and their implementation. And I heard an array of responses, probably not surprisingly. Some folks who would encourage us to implement a policy that would outright ban that kind of technology from being used, while others other responses were more in line with what the chief's saying. I think it could be a good tool, but I have concerns and I have questions.
I don't think we can ban private people from doing what they want on their property, including businesses, really. We might have a policy, but I don't think it's really anything that can really be enforced.
It's not that I don't think we should have a policy. I just think that things are happening so quickly that we should, in light of what the chief has said, they're not intending to use this technology. I think we've satisfied that that's the case for the time being, and just see how this develops, the technology and the policy. I was a proponent of a more stringent AI policy. We decided to adopt a very boilerplate type of policy with a view towards maybe a more refined policy as we go forward. And I just think that at this point, that things are changing so quickly that, and in light again of what the chief is intending or not intending to do, I think we can hold off for a little while and see how the landscape plays out. That's why I said I didn't think we should do it right away.
What's your take on it? How would you be proactive at this point?
Well, I think this has been helpful in understanding the lay of the land, where we are as a community right now with implementation or desire to implement, and that's very helpful. I think there are probably, even at this point, lessons that could be learned from other communities' experiences, both positive and negative, in terms of the policies that they have had or don't have. I've seen, and am signed up to attend a couple, a growing number of webinars from groups like ACLU, as well as just a variety of kind of policy think tanks that might be helpful in helping to think about what are the policy steps that might be appropriate and helpful. But given that there's no immediate, and I'm guessing that holds for at least 3 months, maybe we put this aside for a few months, continue to watch how the landscape develops and revisit if that's feels more comfortable to the board.
Probably, because I wouldn't even know what to come up with right now, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, Ms. Glenn.
I have a question for town council. To Mr. Brown's point, if a private business owner is choosing to install cameras that are, let's say, captures an image of me driving my car on a public road, is there a way for us to craft a policy, should we decide to, that would make it so that that business owner would not be able to have that type of a camera? If, let's say, I'm in a public space that's viewable.
I'm not aware of anything that would allow the select board to do that for a couple of different reasons. One, there's no expectation of privacy for someone being out on a public road. And so someone's privacy protections are lowered when you're in public. Secondly, that is a private matter. And unless it's related to town services, I would question the validity of a bylaw. I don't think it would pass muster from the AG's office if we enacted a bylaw that prohibited a private person from taking a private action on their own private property like that wasn't related to municipal services.
In my understanding, just conferring with the lieutenants, if you had a flock camera and you were a private business or you were a resident, you wouldn't have access to the RMV, the Registry of Motor Vehicles. So you would have the plate number, but you wouldn't have the personal information on the person that owns the car, if that helps.
That's helpful information. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I ask a follow-up question? Would law enforcement agencies potentially have access to the footage generated by a private individual with a flock camera?
The video itself, yeah, we would, just like a Ring doorbell camera, just like, yeah, with a search warrant, or they give us consent. With some of the businesses in town, they've helped us solve crime based on video footage.
Yeah, you look at the cameras all the time, right, when you're investigating a crime.
All the time, huge help.
But there are constitutional protections there in place, which I think is what you're getting to. So with the search warrant, there are protections that have to be reviewed by a judge before it's even granted. So.
But there may be agencies that might consider cooperating, for instance, at a Home Depot with some agency. I don't know. I've heard that they have a network of those cameras, and that's part of the reason why so many people are getting picked up there. I don't really know if it's true, but it seems possible.
There is definitely a concentration of those cameras in the Home Depot parking lot.
Yeah.
In Hyannis. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
So it sounds like the consensus of the board is to table the issue for the time being.
I think so, until we have some word from the chief that it's time to look at it again.
All right. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. And again, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very proud of the board.
Okay. We have minutes from August 10th. Are there any revisions? Did everyone have a chance to take a look at them?
I looked, I didn't see anything wrong.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Select board reports.
I'll start. I wasn't able to attend the first meeting of the Watershed Management Fairness Task Force, but they are actively moving forward. They will be meeting every week. They selected Dan Walsh, who's here, to be the chair, and John Kaufman as the vice chair. They will be meeting on Wednesdays starting September 9th in the select board from 2 to 4. There's a meeting this coming Wednesday in the library bay room from 9 to 10:30 or 11. But they've already developed a rather good agenda, and it's up and running. So thanks to them.
Excellent. Other reports? Ms. Klein?
I was able to attend two of my committee meetings in the interim since our last meeting. We've already celebrated the good work of the Commission on Substance Use and the Cultural Council. And so just to share that those are two great groups doing a lot in our town.
All right.
Thanks.
Excellent.
I attended a zoning board meeting this week, and I wanted to share with the board that the water superintendent would be at our meeting advising us on water restrictions, and that in the future, potentially, there might be some referrals from departments that might change now due to that. It was an interesting evening. There was 2 projects that were there with a lot of public input, and one of the ladies at the, I guess she's one of the abutters, asked the zoning board, why don't you push back more on these projects? Why don't we fight for our safe harbor? And Attorney Pucci, who's the ZBA appointed attorney, very eloquently explained all the town's efforts to establish that safe harbor, appeal these decisions and take it all the way to the top, and still not getting the favorable decision from the Executive Office of Livable Housing, whatever they call it now. And I mentioned that, we were working on a letter, and we were hoping to, get that out the door sometime soon. And people seem to be, appreciative of that, at that, that comment that, we are in Falmouth trying to do the best we can to manage these sometimes unmanageable projects, and sometimes it's really a challenge. So that was,
Excellent.
I think we're doing the best we can with what we have.
I will share that I've had a couple of conversations and feel like along on that topic of 40B, and feel like we may have interest from a diverse enough group of folks that it may be worth not just sending a letter, but actually trying to convene some conversations about what viable paths toward reform, or what the requests might be to the state around some of the issues that we've talked about, of at least getting DEP and housing talking to each other, so that we're not stuck in these impossible mandates of build more housing, don't develop, don't add to nitrogen flows unless it's a 40B, and trying to resolve some of that. So, yeah.
I hope we can still move the letter forward, because I feel like we really, in Falmouth, I think we've really identified some real specific problems with the way it's been rolled out, and we're, I think, a good case study for things that could be fixed.
Yeah, no, I think not, to add on and try to go even beyond that. It's not to replace or to diminish the importance of the letter. But I think there may be opportunities to go further. So,
How would we do that? Have some kind of forum?
good question.
I mean, it's kind of timely right now because we have this concern with the water conservation and we have these examples that are ongoing.
Another thing that Mr. Brown and I have talked about would be, looking at the expiration of the credits, right?
The zoning approval
right, so
doesn't expire, but the subsidized housing inventory list.
Well, so based on the work that you both have been doing, do you think next meeting after, when would we be due to revisit the letter and these topics in more depth? I don't want to get too far into it.
Well, I think the letter is ready to go. I think it's maybe could be pared down a little. We left all of our thoughts in there, and maybe it's a little longer than it needs to be, but I mean, I think all the elements are there, at least what I can identify. And interestingly, Mr. Pucci made many of the same exact comments about what he sees as problems that are surfacing now.
Right, yeah. Well, so I'll do very brief select board member report from myself. I've been attending FinCom meetings with the exception of the last one, but we'll be there again this Wednesday. Good conversations, I think, for the most part, happening there. But I will jump onto future agenda items. We're trying to use this part of our agenda a little bit differently, and apologies if it caused anyone else confusion, but trying to actually use the future agenda items not just as a running list of everything that's been asked for or requested, but actually a preview of next meeting or upcoming meetings to give the members of this board and our community a little bit more heads up on some of the bigger issues. So obviously at our next meeting, September 14th, we do have a joint meeting with the planning board, and we'll be getting together, work on that agenda soon. We'll be voting, I'm sorry, I've wandered away from my microphone here. We'll be voting recommendations on petitioner articles, and then it was the last one, the DEIB committee annual update. We can take a look at that agenda and see how we're doing on length, and see if we can revisit the 40B issue at that meeting as well.
Yeah. And if, I would be willing to meet with Mr. Brown again if we want to have another look at the letter, have one more pass through it before we bring that back to the board. But I would, again, echo, I think we're at a moment where I think we want to capitalize on the opportunity for our requests to be heard. I think that there's a chance that the state will actually listen to us. And so I don't want to let that pass by. And I would also express, Madam Chair, that when you sort out the format of that roundtable forum, whatever it would be, I would put my name forward as a select board member who'd be very interested in being involved in that conversation.
And maybe the letter could be the catalyst for the
right.
for the ongoing conversation.
Catalyst, agenda, all of those things. So yeah, no, excellent, and thank you to both of you for your work on that.
With the planning board meeting, I know the planning board often is, they take on initiatives for zoning changes and so forth, but I'd like to know if we can have like a larger comprehensive discussion about the overall big picture of things in town rather than specific items.
Okay.
I feel like that's something that we've been missing a little bit.
Do you think that might be encompassed by a discussion and agenda item around local comprehensive plan, or?
That, I think, I don't know if it's appropriate or what the right thing is, but I think we just really ought to talk about a lot of these really big decisions that we are facing with, like the relocation of town hall. We know we're looking at the potential downsizing and turning over the Morse Pond School. There's a lot of really big stuff that we really should probably talk with the planning board about.
Okay, and we'll see how much we can get into this next, I was going to say first, but it's not the first, this next joint meeting with the planning board, but it won't be the last, so. All right. I think that does it, if there are no other
think so.
reports or, yes.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much.
You.
The Steamship Authority is a proud partner in many Falmouth community events, including town meeting coverage, and for good reason. Not only do we have a terminal and offices here, about 1/3 of our employees call Falmouth their home. We always work hard to serve our neighbors, friends, and the traveling public. We recently put 7 new electric buses into service at our Falmouth parking lots. We're adding new vessels to our fleet, continuing work on our energy-efficient Woods Hole terminal buildings, and adding solar panels at our largest parking lot. At the Steamship Authority, we're serving the islands and you.
Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce. The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
Hi, it's Brendan from Crane Appliance. Since 1983, our goal as a family-owned company has been simple: to give our neighbors on the Cape and Islands a great shopping experience. Rest easy knowing our professional team will listen to your needs and help you pick the perfect appliances for your home. At Crane Appliance, we know how difficult appliance shopping can be. Our team is here for you. Crane Appliance, we call the Cape and Islands home.
Carlson Printing, 508-548-7303. Our email address is carlsonprinting@gmail.com. Carlson Printing, for all your printing needs. John's Liquor Store, 729 Main Street, Falmouth, 508-548-2287.